Johnny D, you seem to be in motion here tonight. Me, not so much.
I seem to be what?
We're
I'm
still here
sorry.
though.
You're in motion.
Oh
Luke,
yes,
Butch, and I, on the other hand, not so much.
yes, I can move. You cannot. That is definitely the case with this. As we know, Terry's on the other side of the world. He's in Koh Samui. And sometimes technology does or doesn't work. We tried for a little while on your phone. It didn't seem to, it kept dropping. And now we went back to your laptop and you were having an issue with your camera on your laptop. So instead, what we did is I grabbed the best looking picture I could find of you, AKA, I Google image searched you and grabbed the first one. And it was this,
all that tough work.
all that tough work. And now you're here, Terry. You're where you belong. I guess out on the course with a microphone and some sunglasses and some gel in your hair.
Yeah, well, it's a beautiful morning here in Samui. Again, very special guest in Luke Butch. And before we even get into talking here with Luke, this kind of goes as part of that whole island life concept. It was 2 days ago that I took all my heaviest stuff and I threw it into my other suitcase. That included a bunch of the audio and video equipment that I forgot I might have needed for having a guest. And I took all of that. I put it into a suitcase. I helped the lady pack it up and shipped almost 50 pounds to Chiang Mai, which is probably, I don't know, 500 miles.
More.
Maybe 1,000 miles. Shipped it all to Chiang Mai. It's going to get there in 2 days. And 50 pounds of luggage cost me just under $9. So for everyone back in the U.S. that's familiar with shipping anything, tell me the last time you shipped a 50-pound package across the country for $9. That's all part of it. But anyway, so that's where the rest of the audio video equipment is. And right now I've got the man in charge here on Samui Island of Samui Disc Golf, Luke Butch. Luke, good to have you. Have you been? It's Wednesday morning here. The tournament concluded on Sunday night. Did you have a chance to take a breath yet?
Yeah, Monday was a little bit busy cleaning up, and of course, when you're running a 6-day event with AMs and pros on different days, well, the AMs who played first, they watch the pros for 3 days, and Monday morning they want to come and play the course before they leave town.
In fact, spoiler alert, the MP40 winner, Mark, who I played with during rounds 2 and 3, he's on the course as we speak, playing another round of golf. As you said, people seemingly can't get enough of it.
Yeah, and I understand if you're headed back to a cold climate, you want to get in as much good weather disc golf as you can.
Well, it has been incredible here, and I think let's speak to that for a moment. You say 6 days. I think a lot of people don't compute and think about just a regular 2 or 3 day tournament. Explain what you mean by 6 days.
So we had a total of 166 players, I believe, and we only have an 11-hole course. So that meant running for the first 3 days of MA2, MA3, FA1, MA40, MA50, MA60. We separate those into a morning and an afternoon flight. And so we had 57 players on the first half of the tournament for over 3 days. And then on the second half, we ran 3 flights to accommodate demand of 109 players. And that meant a 9 a.m., a noon, and a 3 p.m. tee off.
Yeah, so plenty of, and this year, all about that 3 flights, as you just mentioned, that was an adjustment. That's not something that we've had for the last few years. That was an adjustment simply to accommodate more players because the 88 spots wasn't enough.
That is a challenge here when you're trying to plan the event, is that you don't know what divisions, who's going to come, who's going to sign up for which division, what time they have free on their holiday, or if there are more people coming from Asia, when they can make it. And so you kind of just plan and hope it kind of works out. And this year it was a bit more uneven. And in previous years before COVID, we had more lower rated players and fewer pros. So, and hopefully next year it'll balance out more evenly.
Yeah, and so we invite everyone to make sure you come here. What's great is a number of the players may compete on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then they turn around and actually compete on Friday, Saturday, Sunday if your ratings obviously qualify. Or sometimes you may have an MA 40, and then turn around and have an MA1 or MA2 or whatever. And if they're on separate, you may play in a slightly different division than you're used to. But if you qualify for more than one, you should certainly give it a go.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people, some people are obviously here to compete. They treat it as a bit more serious tournament, and they're in it to win it. And others are just here for the holiday, and they just see it as, oh, I can play more golf. I had a great time the first few days. I want to play more. Sign me up.
Now, when we talk about, well, let's go right to the 11 holes. A lot of questions that I got asked this weekend in showing up, and a lot of questions that come from both players and maybe even surrounding community people. People ask, can we expand? Do we go from 11 to whether it's 14 or ideally maybe some would of course suggest 18? What are some of the conversations and or restrictions that we have?
Oh, I had questions when I took over the reins from Nigel Mills, the founder and previous owner. Is that, well, am I going to change holes? Am I going to make it harder? Are we expanding, et cetera, et cetera? Well, we're quite limited in space. Samui is extremely expensive property value, extremely. I personally think overvalued. And so the land we use now is actually, the course is made up of 5 different people's property. And this is just basically unused property that was previously, nothing was there, just some coconut trees. And we talked to the landowners and said, hey, can we clean it and use it? And, for the time being, basically. And they said, okay. And they like having it clean. And a recent area we cleaned, the landowner is now asking, like, hey, maybe we can clean a little more. And, um, so that part is great. We're in a good situation here where the people who do own the land are very happy to have us, and nothing's going anywhere. However, some of the area surrounding the course is lower land, which stays wet almost year round, which would not be ideal for playing. And also I was thinking of this earlier when me and Terry talked last night, is that I don't know anywhere else in the world that has more first-time players, and maybe only one-time players, come play as we do here, because we have tourists throughout the year that are on Samui, that are staying maybe 5-10 minutes from the course, and they are a family or 2 couples or a couple, and they're just looking for something outdoors to do that isn't going to the beach or something water involved. They're just looking for something unique and different, and they come to play, and they play one round of 11, and that seems to be 9 to 11. That seems to be good in that it's about an hour for a group of 4, hour and a half, which is a reasonable tourist activity, I feel like.
Yeah, and that's such a great point. I think a lot of people lose that. We obviously, when you're a diehard disc golfer, you want as many holes as possible, and you think of the very traditional and obvious 18. I'm not trying to fool anybody in thinking that's not the normal amount. However, as this is developed into being 11, and it's relatively short, it probably plays closer to like a 9-hole or maybe even 8-hole course would on a lot of your more difficult tracks. And so it's not overwhelming. And it gives everybody, like you said, that break to go out and play at a very modern. And if you want more, well, you just play it again. And you're already familiar with the 11 holes, so then you can go just get it in again. I don't know. It is a very fair question that everyone has asked it. However, it's not a top priority or a concern as of this point. So I just want to, I guess, put that out there for the world. Luke and I are on the same page as that. If there are some neighbors and or some other property owners that make it obvious that we can tie it in, that's a consideration, but by no means is it a top priority by something that we're looking at doing tomorrow. So
A bit eye-opening to me after I took over management here is, as tourists come, our first hole is our shortest. It's only 145 feet, about 44 meters or so, and they've never they may have never thrown a disc before, a frisbee at all, and they look at that as being extremely far, and that is by far the shortest hole.
Sure.
And so we have a very strange situation where we have to make it the course challenging enough for experienced players, and I think it proved that for the most part this past week.
Mhm.
And yet it has to be straightforward enough and easy to see the baskets and clean cut and straightforward, so that a tourist, a first time player, can get through without any hassles, without losing any discs, and still be enjoyable for them.
Well, I guess one of the things that I would throw at you as well, let's back up, because some people, you know, when this news broke of me helping out and stepping in, and then you being here on site, understandably, you've been out of the U.S. for more than a decade. Some people are saying, well, who's the guy on the island? Who's overseeing things? Who's taking care of stuff? Well, because I'm physically clearly not there 51 weeks out of the year. So give everyone just a little bit of your history or backstory, disc golf, and then even, you know,
Okay.
time to the island.
Sure. Well, I started playing disc golf when I was about 12 years old. I'm 38 now. My friend's dad, Paul O'Keefe, I was in Boy Scouts. He brought a basket and a bunch of aviars to a meeting one day, showed us how to play, got us to the course for a world's biggest disc golf weekend.
Second week in May, usually.
Yeah, that's going back. And the following year, we started playing league and about once a week, and then it went from there. And so I've been playing. I've taken breaks for a couple years here and there through the years, but I've also played a lot of big events. Been playing tournaments for 20 something years. Been running tournaments for about 20 years. Probably at least 20 years for the last 20 years. So kind of felt like I've done it all. And I used to live in Bangkok, where I didn't play any disc golf. I would just come down on holiday to Koh Samui maybe for a month a year. And 2 years ago, I moved to Samui, and then this opportunity to take over the course kind of fell into my lap at the right time.
Yeah, and so you and I have had, obviously you've gone international, but you and I have had similar paths in terms of when we found the game, the people that we were surrounded with, the same, almost the exact, along with Johnny, the exact same like generational disc golf. And you know, kind of the old school, not just regime, but the old school way of doing everything. You know, back when you started running tournaments, we were doing everything on Excel spreadsheets, and you had like 30 days to submit it. And now people, if the scores aren't up and or live, people are losing their minds. And you waited for the VHS tapes for the World Championships 6 months after Worlds happened. Like, those are all the same experiences that you've shared with Johnny and I.
I remember how awful those Excel spreadsheets were to upload to the PDJ site or to email them. I can't recall.
Yeah. And that was an upgrade, thanks to, I think, Chuck and a few of those guys. Like the Excel spreadsheet that had a whole bunch of macros in it. That was even in itself an upgrade. Before that, it was paper.
I never did that, thankfully.
Results.
I think.
Yeah, so that gives you guys a little bit of where we've come and where we're at now. No secret, I don't think. Well, I've told the world, so I hope you don't mind. One of the things that brought you international originally in the first place was the fact that you were a professional poker player and banned it in the U.S.
Used to play poker.
An IP thing? An IP address thing?
No, I think I moved to Thailand beforehand.
Okay.
Before they banned it. It was a good reason to continue staying here, but it was more that I had the freedom to travel wherever I wanted, and then a bit freedom in work times and schedules.
Sure.
And so that gave me the opportunity to come to Thailand at the first time, and I kind of fell in love, and then a lot of things worked out really well for me when I first moved here. In terms of friends, in terms of housing, everything went really well initially, and I think if you talk to a lot of foreigners who live abroad, I think you'll find a similar story for a lot of us. If like they end up staying for a long time, things went pretty well at the start.
Okay.
And like had something went poorly, maybe I moved to a different country, maybe I moved back to the States. I don't know.
Yeah, and we missed out, Johnny. We missed out on a major opportunity. We should have had him opening the show in Thai, which is
yeah.
Let me just say, I've said it 100 times, probably even last week. I love everyone that speaks multiple languages. It's phenomenal. Give us your background in learning the language, and then how applicable or necessary maybe do you find that skill is, and how much? What do you rate your Thai? Let's start there. What do you rate it?
I would rate it for a foreigner on Koh Samui. I'm an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
for a foreigner anywhere else in Thailand, I'm probably a 5 out of 10.
Oh.
And
Okay.
because Samui being a very tourist-friendly island, every sign is in English. Every menu is in English.
Yep.
You do not need Thai for the most part. Now, when I took over and the disc golf course, and that I now live at the house at the course, well, there were a lot of repairs and upgrades and things I want to do. Well, that involves dealing with the local repairman who does not speak a word of English,
Okay.
and the landlord who does not speak a word of English, and so my Thai language skills became very helpful.
Yeah, it has been incredible watching you interact, and I guess just to pull back the curtain, another inch or two, there's a certain number of regulations and restrictions, and I talked about this very openly when when the announcement was about the course and acquiring the course. We have to have Thai people here working, doing certain tasks that just have to be done by Thai nationals. Is that correct?
Yeah, foreigners are not allowed, are quite restricted in what we can do in terms of employment. And even like as my work permit title is general manager, I'm still not allowed to do quite a lot. And so we have full-time Thai staff every day. And then we also have Thai staff who will come, like this past week, we had 4 extra workers during the tournament week because of how busy it was.
Sure. And just to clarify, I mean, if you wanted to go out and mow or pick up sticks or do something like that on the course, or
I think that's allowed.
Round up coconuts, not a problem. But certain financial things and whatever is when we're entrusting Thais to help us out and be part of the process, really.
Yeah.
And clearly, like you said, the fact that there was additional employment, kind of like contract workers, additional contract workers for an entire week as the tournament comes in. Yeah, it's just a little blip on the radar, but almost 200 golfers showing up for a weekend is going to provide a legitimate economic impact to a number of Thai people.
Yeah, and I'm sure the local restaurants, I know a lot of people were staying nearby the course this year. Sometimes they're more spread out throughout the island, and this year it seemed like almost everyone I talked to was staying within 5-6 minutes of the course, and because they want to be nearby. It's a good area. It's not too crowded near us, but it still has a lot of restaurants and bars and stuff to do other than the disc golf.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that maybe I need to do a better job, and I know a lot of the other players here this week will, is advertise all of the non-golf stuff that you got to make sure to take in, whether that's going down to some of the piers, whether that's jumping onto one of the other islands like we did yesterday, the ferry, finding the waterfalls, going zip lining, elephant sanctuaries, temples to go visit. There's wild nightlife if that's something you're into. There's obviously endless opportunities of authentic food everywhere you turn. Like there's a lot of things. There's motorbiking. I mean, I I kind of unofficially timed that if it's the middle of the night and there's very little traffic, you can zip around the island in almost exactly an hour. Like if you're trying to get around it quick. Now, you do that in the middle of the day with traffic, even as an aggressive driver, you're probably talking an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 45. But if you were racing yourself to get around the island in one quick loop, it'd be about 1 hour to get all the way around. So, what would be your number one recommendation outside of golf for the first timer that comes here? And you're thinking, hey, while you're here, this is something else that's popular or something else you should probably go check out.
Well, I'll mention one idea I talked with a couple friends yesterday about. They're off to do a boat trip, and what I'm hoping for next year's Samui Swine is that when you're signing up for the tournament, you're able to check a box and prepay for, let's rent a boat, get about 30 or 40 of us on a boat and go out on a snorkel trip with just disc golfers on the boat.
Yeah.
And I think that's really doable. I wanted to make it happen for this year. I wasn't able to, but I recently talked to a friend who, someone knows a guy with a boat rental, and I'm sure we're going to be able to hook it up for next year. So I think that would be pretty awesome. I mean, the water's great, and there's some great snorkeling places, and I think it'll be a great time.
I agree. And Sarah Holcomb, a couple years ago when she was here, kind of took the reins and helped orchestrate a group, and it was so much fun. I remember James Conrad and his girlfriend, along with so many others that all jumped on the boat. Tons of us golfers. I remember Maya from Croatia, Gary Tedeo, all of us just jumping on, going to the south side of the island in that case, and then going out for a day trip, visiting another island. Is that Pig Island?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? I mean, there are pigs there, so I'm gonna assume that's Pig Island. It's such a good time. And then real quick, I'll say yesterday we had the pleasure. I kind of helped orchestrate about 10 or 12 of us that ultimately got on a ferry, went to a nearby island, and we played another disc golf course. Speak just a little bit, what that process has been for Miko, or what conversations you've had.
Miko, who's from Finland, he opened a course, a 9-hole course in Koh Samui, which is the neighboring island to Koh Samui. And while it does not have an airport, there are ferries running nonstop almost from Koh Samui all day to get there. That is the island, for anyone who knows or heard of the full moon party. That's quite popular. It draws 10, 20,000 tourists every month for the full moon party.
Yep.
I've never been. That's not really my scene, but very popular. And so it's a little bit of different vibe to that island, a bit more relaxed, bit more, I don't know.
Just a little more laid back,
Yeah, laid back.
and dare I say, even less expensive. And it's crazy to think, relax. When you think about Samui, most people are like, hey, man, this is island life. I love it. But to go there, it's even a notch lower than that. Not quite as crazy tourist-wise, right?
Not as much, except for the few days around the full moon, which is pretty crazy. But still, it's a good sized island, and Miko set up a 9-hole course, and he purchased baskets from Peachet, who was on round one feature card.
Yep.
He makes baskets, or his factory does, which has been awesome because now there's someone producing baskets in Thailand who's Thai, and I'm starting to work with him and another person looking at getting baskets in a new city.
Wait. We have a Smashbox exclusive here, folks. You gotta give it its full proper due. Luke, you've got some big news. What can you share about that?
Yeah, we're trying. Hopefully, going to be buying baskets from Peachet. I'm working with a friend of mine in Trot, which is a city on the far east side of Thailand, near the Cambodia border, near Koh Chang, and he learned how to play on Koh Mak, a course started by Palm Holiday, and he has talked to someone. He's secured land. I'm hoping to go there next month and design a 9-hole course, and then we'll be trying to get sponsorship for baskets and tee signs and put in the course before the end of this year.
Wow, that's tell him, or I'll tell them, whatever. I'm in. I want to sponsor.
Okay.
I want to sponsor the first basket there if I can.
All right, great.
With that being said, how many courses? We've had conversations, and I'll talk with Aaron up in Chiang Mai, who's working on some great stuff in the tournament, which I'll be heading up to tomorrow. When it's all said and done, off the top of your head, how many courses are officially now in Thailand?
I believe about 10.
Okay.
9 or 10. And with one soon to be announced, I hope.
Uh-huh.
And then hopefully this one. And after I go to Trot, I'm hoping to go to the northeast of Thailand and possibly get a course going up there as well.
Okay. All right. Well, that is absolutely incredible. I was going to say, I think I've already been to 4 or 5 out of the 10 that you're thinking of. I know there's 1 or 2 for sure that I need to get to, and I will in due time. But crazy to think that where Johnny and I live, or anywhere in the States, usually within an hour, you're finding anywhere from 2 to 20 to 30 courses, depending on where you live. So to think there's 10 in the entire country just shows you where we're at, but yet all that opportunity for growth. How many total people in Thailand is the next question per capita?
68 million.
Okay, so 10 courses for 68 million. There's some growth opportunities.
Yeah, and I've been really happy the last year or two. There have been huge development in disc sports in general for Thai people and Thai university students. So now if you want to follow Flying Disc Thailand or Thailand Flying Disc Association, I think, on Facebook, they're running ultimate tournaments for university kids and high school kids. And I'm watching teams travel for ultimate tournaments now within the country. And that's great to see because some of those people know about disc golf. Some do play. They might not have a course yet, but at those ultimate tournaments, there's always someone that looks like setting up a basket with some discs and kind of showing it. And they're trying to introduce guts and disc golf. And I love to see them play DDC. I haven't played that in 20 years or something.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole nother beast. And then I think humidity out here. All right. One of the wrap-up questions I'm going to have for you is, one of the best parts that I love about traveling is seeing these players, and then if they step off the island or they go to somewhere else, not only knowing them, but then knowing something about their game and seeing that they're the next superstar. We ran into that in Singapore last week. So I've kind of got my finger on the pulse there. Last year, we were introduced to Butch, who was just phenomenal. I saw him both here at the Swine and in Chiang Mai. Also viewed Giorgio, who sponsored by Prodigy and was out there touring around. Was a Thai national. My question out of all that is, who might be on our radar? Who, if they went to a Worlds, or just you think has growth potential? Maybe not on the national or international scene for a little while, but who here locally? Do we have a couple players?
On Samui, I would say no.
Okay.
Mainly because our local players are usually a bit older. Yep. They're foreigners. They're older. They're retired or semi-retired here. At 38, I'm one of the youngest.
Okay.
It seems like. Well, I don't know if I can answer that yet, but hopefully after I take a trip next month up north and meet some new players, and especially a lot of the university students, I'm sure one will come out. And I've met a few younger Thai guys who basically have learned from online. They've learned watching YouTube. They sometimes have learned and ordered discs and bags from the States without even having a local course. And they are just so dedicated. And so I'm going to be curious if I run into a couple. I can think of a couple off top of my head that if I run into them and see where their game has changed, because maybe they have a course now that they can practice all the time.
Sure.
And so I think one of those people will end up being, the next one to come up and, compete.
All right. And our FPO winner this weekend, the spoiler, where is she from?
She is from Johor Bahru, Malaysia.
Okay.
And she learned disc golf. Her name is Lily. Mm-hmm. She learned disc golf during COVID, like many people. And she now has been living on Samui for a bit over a year. And I did see her practicing quite a lot. At the end of the day, she was coming. And she was coming at 5:30 and staying till after dark. Avoiding people, trying to just get in a quiet practice round by herself. And I saw her training quite hard the last month for the tournament, and it paid off.
Well, it certainly did. Lily Rasang,
yes,
is her name. We'll continue to look for her. And another name who I think we're going to see this upcoming weekend, who is also from Thailand. Her name she goes by Jenny, but how do you pronounce her name?
Jerapong Papagalang.
Okay. I mean, your attempt is 100 times better than mine will ever be. So, but she goes by Jenny. She's one of 4 FPO competitors that we'll see this weekend. And same thing, like if she keeps grinding, she keeps pushing forward. PDGA number 273,481. Only 813 right now, but one of those women that seemed like she wants to take it serious, and she's got a great mentor and helper in Pichette, right?
This is my first time meeting her and seeing her play was this weekend, but I know she's played one or two events previously. And like we said, with not so many courses and not so many events, we're growing and we have more, but it's not like there's an opportunity to play or compete every weekend. So the one thing I think some of those players I've seen lack is just experience. It's just going to take time. And as we get a few more courses and as there are tournaments now that are just being run basically by Thai people, not PDJ sanctioned, not WIFDIF sanctioned, just more localized tournaments. As those younger Thai players gain more tournament experience, I think that's kind of what they need. They have the throwing skills,
Sure.
But the experience and tournament experience under pressure, they don't have yet. So that'll come with time.
Yeah, and all the nuances that go with playing in a tournament, like you said, some of that experience. A couple quick questions on the board that I would love to address here. Ed had said, or had asked if there's a place on the islands to buy discs, or do they need to be purchased online? Before we fully answer that, we have to say a huge shout out again to Latitude 64 for being the presenting sponsor of this weekend's event. It was great working with them, and the fact that somehow we, fingers crossed and everything else, everything worked out so well for them to get shipped here, which can be a challenge. And Latitude 64 stepped up in such a major way that now there are a couple hundred discs that arrived on the island. Every player on the AM sides got a Latitude 64 disc as part of their player pack. There was also glow discs that were provided for during the glow night on Saturday night here. So it's awesome that they were so gracious. And then with that, the very, what we call the souvenir stamp, the Samui souvenir stamp, is now stamped on a ton of different molds. And those are available in the Pro Shop. But the Pro Shop overall is something that you want to continue to build out, because how difficult is it to get good discs?
It is. Latitude did help us out big time. That was a major worry for me in that, a few weeks out from the event, discs are still being shipped, and I don't know how long it's going to take, or will they get through customs easily, or will they make it to the house, or do I have to go pick them up, or whatever. And they made it here no problem. It was fantastic. But typically, the way we bring this is I will order them wholesale and send them to someone in the States who will then bring them in their second bag.
Sure.
And so we're talking 25 to 50 to 70 discs at a time. And so that's quite a challenge here. But we do have a pro shop now at Samui Disc Golf. We have discs for sale. We have towels, minis, soon to come birdie bags, I hope, or something similar, a whale sack, something like that. We got shirts, we got snacks. We'll have you covered. We have a good selection of discs thanks to Latitude. And so if you come to Samui Disc Golf, or if you're in Thailand and need a disc, send us a message on Facebook. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, and we've talked about, I've kind of extensively talked about the challenges with getting them here on the island. So anytime of year that you might be coming here or to this area, or even just getting to Thailand, as I just mentioned, shipping. If you're going into Bangkok, you could just even get them into Bangkok and could spend the extra half hour to get to the post office for us to ship them over, and a 50-pound pack costing just $10 will certainly make it worth your time. But that's one of the big challenges. And then one of the last things we'll talk about, which, as you said, is maybe one of the biggest accomplishments of the whole weekend. Yes, 166 people, over 6 days, plus glow, plus putting competition at the boat bar, and everything else. You posted a picture of a tabletop, and what was on there, and what does that mean?
So I had been asked by Peachet and others who are looking to introduce disc golf into local Thai schools that they need discs. Basically, any disc, secondhand disc, new disc, old disc, whatever. They need discs because, for us in the States, disc golf is a cheap sport, really low cost barrier to entry. But when you're talking about a normal Thai person, an average Thai person, a disc is a day's salary for a regular worker. And for a school kid, that they can't afford that maybe. And so I kind of put out the call to everyone who's coming from abroad needs to bring to sign up for the tournament. You need to bring at least one disc to donate to Thai kids.
I like.
And then I mentioned that if you bring more, I would be happy to give you a beverage of your choice for each disc. After that, very few people took me up on that. And anyways, at the tournament, we received over 200 discs, and also not this weekend, but because of that kind of call I put out for discs, there were another about 70 discs that we previously got last month. And so now we're talking about 270 discs that can be spread around different schools throughout Thailand to help them grow. So anytime you're coming to any developing disc golf scene country, be it Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, anywhere in the world that's starting to grow disc golf, and you can ask your local league, ask your local club, hey, I'm going here. Does anyone have any used discs to donate? And usually we all have too many discs back home. And so I've done that previously, and it was easy to get 100 discs. And so anytime you go and think, hey, look, I got a room for a few more, and bring some old putters or something, because you could change a Thai person's life. You never know if they get into disc golf and follow that path, and who knows where they could end up.
Yeah, it is incredible, and we talk about grow the sport, and everyone has their their thought on that. But when you're talking about Southeast Asia, or like you said, any developing area, getting the discs in the hands, getting them to people to try it out for free, not having that financial burden or barrier, that initial cost, just being able to hand somebody an old beat up disc of any kind, like you said, could absolutely change somebody's life and turn them into one of our next superstars. Because it's happening in the moment, and I thought about it a lot this week. What is that bird?
I do not know. Sorry, I can't help
the
you.
one that makes that.
I know which one.
Did I just call it out and it stopped chirping? That noise.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I do not know. Sorry.
All right. Well, you're gonna have to. I guess that's maybe another reason to entice someone like a Madison Walker to get over here as well, so she could identify all the birds.
She
would love it.
She might never leave. There's so many curiosities that she could discover here, and I could hook her up with a round with a local Thai player whose name is Joy, who can basically point out everything edible, so many things that are edible and what they're used for, and how you cook them on the course. Madison would definitely love it.
Okay, well that sounds about right. I mean, even just coming back to my bungalow on any given night, I had snails that were on the sidewalk. At one point, I've got a collection of frogs. I've seen a whole bunch of other interesting insects and whatever. And before I let you go, Luke, I should have opened this as well. One of our favorite Australians, one of the greatest Australians in all of disc golf, Luke Turnbull, is currently not feeling well, and so I know he's listening in. And Luke, we hope that your recovery goes well. Luke's trying to get on a plane today, but sickness may have got the best of him. So we'll see. He may have to. If you're going to get stranded in paradise, as they say, isn't necessarily the worst thing. But saw somebody asking about Australia, and I've met a few new Australians. Had the pleasure of hanging out with Lauren, and Thomas and Lauren, along with Corey. So I got to meet a few Australians, and then of course tons of new friends from all over. What did we count? Roughly 19.
I think so.
Countries represented here this weekend.
19 countries, and that's that was almost part of the challenge. It's you have a lot of different players coming from a lot of different backgrounds. They're used to things running different ways, and a lot of different languages. While English is obviously the common language, some people are more fluent than others, and so that can be a challenge. But it's also part of the family get together atmosphere, reunion feeling when you see people that you haven't seen in a year or 4 years since before COVID.
Yeah.
And that's why that's part of the reason people like to keep coming back.
Yeah, it is truly, I say Frisbee family all the time, but this is truly a family reunion then, when you see all of these people and someone like we just mentioned, Maya from Croatia, her being here and knowing she was here pre-COVID, and then just everyone else that is either experiencing it for the first time or has been making their sixth or eighth or whatever return trip. Greg Feshian from Grand Rapids, Michigan area, not Grand Rapids. Yeah. I think he's been here 8 or so years. And then one of my favorite parts is saying goodbye to everybody in the day or so after the tournament and being like, oh, never mind, I'll see you in Chiang Mai. Like, that speaks so much to the growth and the development of this tour, and this idea is I'm saying goodbye to people that I'll literally see in another part of the country in just another day or two, and that's a pretty cool feeling as people are trying to take it all in. So I absolutely love it. It's awesome. Luke, anything you want to say to all the Smashies, the listeners, and the online live or post? Anything you want to say before I cut you loose here?
Hope to see you here on Koh Samui. We welcome you year round. We got 10.5 months of fantastic weather. November can be a bit rainy, that's all, but it's still warm and rain. So we have a great course here. We hope to see you here.
All right, everyone. That's Luke Butch. I'm going to cut him loose, and we can start talking about all the other random disc golf stuff. But appreciate it, Luke. And what an unbelievable experience this last weekend was, and for all the reasons that we just talked about, Johnny. And I say it all the time now. I want people to say within the next few years, like, what? You haven't been to Asia or Southeast Asia to play disc golf, as opposed to being surprised that you have. I want people to be surprised that you haven't, because it's just everyone that leaves here, I feel like, says, okay, we're coming back next year. And I think if they each bring one friend, like, we're going to get real full real quick and have to find a way to accommodate, and we'll do just that. So it's pretty incredible.
And it seems like you're on the right path, honestly, with what everybody is doing there, and what you're doing there, and obviously what Luke's doing there, and just the word of mouth that's spreading about it. The event itself is filling up quicker and quicker, and you're having to accommodate more and more people. It's really an amazing transition.
Yeah, and so incredibly blessed to have Luke doing what he's doing here and being part of it. To hold down the fort, so to speak, and to make sure things run as smoothly as they do. Clearly, this wouldn't be happening if it was a direct conversation, not only me from afar, but also direct conversations with me and exclusively Thai national people myself. Just things wouldn't be happening. Let's put it that way.
Well, let's talk. Let's take a minute to talk about the results of your Samui Swine Classic 11. Over at Koh Samui with the tournament director, Mr. Luke Butch. Over on the MPO, I mean, I don't know if you can call it...
If you want to wait for coverage of MPO, you should mute for the next 3 to 5 minutes.
There you go.
But if you don't
just hit that 30-second skip button about 4 or 5 times. The winner, and again, I don't know if you can call him back-to-back, even though he won back-to-back years. It's in different divisions. Shasta Chris taking the MPO, and I believe last year he won MP40. So this year he's kind of, I don't want, I mean, it sounds...
He's stepping up.
He's stepping up. Coming from a guy who plays MP40 once in a while, I don't want it to be like an insult that, you're stepping up to play with the big boys, but sure enough, he steps up and wins by 3 strokes over, was it Evan Boucher?
Mm-hmm.
Who tied
with
Philo Brathwaite. And then from there was a significant drop, about 10 strokes, to I'm going to mess this up, but Boucher.
That's who we were just talking about.
Yep. Patrick Kais and Christoph Novak. So those were your tied for 4th place. I'm not going to go any further because I'll just probably get myself in trouble.
Oh, the next names are easier.
They are Joey Polari, Andrew Bailey, and Ken Tuvinger. Tuvinger, maybe. See, there you go. I already messed it up. That's your top. Basically, you're just about your top 10 for MPO. Congratulations to Shasta, who just continues to be amazing. He opens up the tournament with a 1054 rated round. Then he comes back with 1,003 and 1,006. Just a real solid weekend for him. Going down over to FPO, you already talked about her for a little bit. Lily Risang wins this by 2 strokes over Marissa Rosta from New Ronhoffels, Texas. So Marissa comes in from
Well,
States.
for now.
Well, for now.
Marissa and her husband. Well, I say her and her husband were here, and they're first timers. Had dinner with them last night and got to know them a little bit better. They're going back to Texas, where their bags are almost essentially packed, and they're moving back to California. So they're going to transplant back to where they once were from in California. So that's why I say for now. But they're a couple that said, "Oh yeah, we're coming back, and we're here because we've seen the coverage, and we wanted some of that action." So yes, she shot a great final round to get herself into that position.
Yeah, she certainly did, and she tied with Margaret Patterson at 1 over par, and then at 2 over par was Kat Johnson. And in 5th place, a couple over that, was Jay Sardos. So that is your FPO out of Ypsilanti, Michigan. That is your FPO field, your top 5. Congratulations to the top 5 MPO and FPO, all the competitors that took home some wonderful. I don't. What was
taking
it?
Home bot.
Taking home. I guess
you're taking home
bot.
memories.
I was thinking more
you're taking home
memories.
bot.
That's where I was thinking experiences, memories, but I guess you're taking home some bot too. So
Well, hopefully you're spending it. Actually, you're continuing to support the local economy and whatnot. But yeah,
I'm sure
you see on when you
I'm
see
sure
on the
they're
wall,
putting more into the economy
10,000
than they're
bot.
taking out.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible, and I got to meet so many of the competitors, MPO, FPO side, MP40, of course. I played with a number of them. It was just so many. There was a lot of new faces, of course, but just so many returning faces, and then just staples that are here time and time again. And you absolutely love to see it. And like I said, plenty of people transitioning up to Chiang Mai and heading up there. I know a couple people are catching a flight today, including Margaret, who you were just talking about. I know her, along with Shane, who is playing MP50. They're heading up there today. I'll be heading up there tomorrow. I don't have to practice, unlike a lot of the other players. And so it's awesome to see people taking in. And it's a very different vibe, and I can't say that enough. What you experience here on the island in Samui, as opposed to what you get in Chiang Mai, it's still, of course, all Thailand. And there's a lot of similarities, but yet there's a lot of differences. This island lifestyle, as opposed to what you find in the second biggest city of the country, of course, Bangkok being the largest and the most populated. Chiang Mai is the second largest city in the entire country, and it also has a lot of very special feels and vibes to it as well. So that's all part of the process.
And of course, Terry mentions that he doesn't have to practice only because he came out and dropped.
I'm not playing.
Well, it doesn't matter. You came out and dropped a 975 rated second round. Look at that. Whoop, whoop. 956, 975. And then the third round, we don't know what happened. I'm not sure if you lost an arm or what happened.
I got bit by a scorpion. Bit by a scorpion.
A scorpion that was riding on a snake that bit you too. Unfortunately, finishing up the tournament with an 889 rated round. That is
no,
the
not
epitome.
finishing up the tournament. Finishing the last nine holes with about a 700 rating. Is how that all evened out. It was.
Ouch.
I started out the final round phenomenal. I came in with a 3-stroke deficit to Mart.
Yep.
And after about 9 or 11 holes, our first loop, I was like, I'm not catching this guy. I think I was 5 or 6 under, and he was also 5 or 6 under. I'm like, okay, he's playing phenomenal. I'm playing pretty good. I'm not catching him. And then I just decided to not get on the island of 3. Getting on Samui was easier, I guess. Not getting on the island and then like 4 putting from 20 feet. It was thoroughly embarrassing. And then at that point, any ounce or shred of confidence I had was out the window, and let second place Benjamin I gave him, I think, 4 or 5 strokes on that hole, and and then he was able to leapfrog me. So anyway,
Well,
it is what it is. Super happy to play with the guys that I did. So big shout out to Mart for taking it down.
yeah, I don't know who on Facebook or I'm sorry, Twitter mentioned it about your 975 plus rated round, that it's like your like 200th or something, 975.
300. Come on, get it right. 311.
311th 975 plus rated round. So congratulations on that, Terry. It's
would have been a funny stat.
It is a funny stat, but just I think
you're reaching, right?
a little bit. Clearly, as we know, our top pros, they eclipse that in like a year or two. But it goes to show that some people, and I think that is maybe the impetus behind the post, don't realize the player that you at one point were or even can be at times. And so to put that out there a little bit is kind of nice. Is, hey, look, Terry shot a 975 rated round. They didn't go out there and post that this is Terry's like 57th sub 900 rated round or anything.
Which I hope, I don't even think I have that many. Let's
I don't know.
That record
I literally just
I know you're
made
making
it up. I don't know.
Hopefully I have less than like a dozen.
But either way.
Anyway, yes.
Either way. So congratulations. I hope you had fun. We're going to talk a little bit about some other events that happened throughout the country of the United States. We're going to go over to Jacksonville, Florida, the NADGT Tour finale, which a lot of you people are thinking like, what? Don't they normally do the tour finale in October or November? They normally do, but they didn't. Now it's in Jacksonville, Florida, February 1st through the 4th. We saw over in MPO, Corbin Michalski. I dated a girl whose last name was Mahalski, but it was spelled like Michael Ulski, so it was Mahalski. But this is a little different, so it looks like Milcheski. It looks like Milcheski. Who wins this takes home $4,000. $4,000 for an NADGT event.
Did he accept it?
He did.
That's the question, right?
He did, because in second place, Broden Barlow, who lost to him by 5 strokes, did not accept his. His prize is blank. But tied with him was Jonathan Juries, who did take the $2,000 and was probably happily walked away with a smile because he probably didn't have to split it with Broden. So Corbin takes first. Broden and Jonathan tied for second. In fourth place was Ryan Mon, Monn. You may know him because we have other pro player, Jake Mon. I believe they're brothers. And fifth place, Cooper Johnson and Lucas Carmichael. So congratulations to your top 5. I mean, the cash goes down a little ways, but I'm not going to bother going into all of that. But what I do want to say, and we'll get into FPO in just a moment, remember these names. Because Corbin came out with a 1025, 994, 997, and 1022. So he averaged about a 1010. That is a player who you will probably start to see on the tour in the next year or two, and you will know his name because we talked about it because of NADGT. NADGT has been a great feeder event. The winner has seemed to have a pretty good place on the tour the last few years. Over in FPO, Ellie Ezra wins this one by a single stroke, taking home $1,500, which she, of course, accepted, over Ann Deputy. Ann Deputy shot a 25 over par. Third place was Kimberly Dickerson, no relation to a Chris Dickerson. In fourth place, you have Lillianne Waite, and in fifth place, Isabella Parker. So congratulations to our FPO. Ellie Ezra, obviously, probably the favorite. She was the highest rated, but she only did win by a stroke, shooting 906, 943, 912, and 861. And I think Ellie Ezra has she is primed for phenomenal talent. I think it's probably her control that she will need to work on if she wants to really make a splash at the pro tour level. Your thoughts, Terry?
Yeah, I mean, some other exciting announcements that I think came from her camp is the fact that she's also been now sponsored by DGA.
Yep, we announced that last week.
Yeah, which goes hand in hand with, I think a bigger conversation about DGA being a little bit more aggressive and acquiring some of these big players.
They've
Macy
got a
Valadiaz,
phenomenal young team right now.
Yeah, Macy Valadiaz. I think I don't know if that was last week already. I'm on island time, but Macy with an announcement of her joining Team DGA as well in recent times. So yeah, Ellie Ezra, clearly a bright young superstar, very very young, insane power, insane speed, and just a love for the game that will probably transcend all other possible, not possible, but will transcend a bunch of the other sports or interests or hobbies or whatever. And someone like her, completely dedicated and focused to being a darn good golfer. Yeah, people have to. People often say, we've seen this dominance and this insane play by Kristen over these last couple of years, and people are, oh, she's going to win the next 5 worlds. The only reason I hesitate on phrases like that is because of women like Ellie Ezra. Like, if she puts it all together and she finds a way to do that in the next year or two, there's no reason someone like her couldn't come in and take down a world championship. Yes, of course, Kristen is insanely consistent and has proven herself as one of the most elite women to ever play the game, clearly. But to say she's got, this just this open path to nonstop success, I think is short-sighted because of upcoming superstars like Ellie Ezra. Wow, words got tough there for a second.
No, and
anyway,
yeah, and that's fine. And I get you. And I think what we're going to see Ellie Ezra. There's a very good parallel we can draw to Anthony Barella about 5 or 6 years ago. And
sure.
Insane power, needs to work on control, because I hope there's not a lot of pressure on her to come out and perform like she did at USDGC. Because we saw
sure.
what she can do at USDGC. We also saw what she can do at USDGC when she had that last round that was kind of abysmal. But we can absolutely watch a developing star. And the FPO field, like you said, is getting better and better. I saw, I think, 2 different posts today of women throwing like 500 feet. There's a 12-year-old who crushed, and it was downhill, so I don't want to, but she's 12. So it was slightly downhill, down this thing. She threw it like 500 feet. It was a beautiful looking throw. And then there was another young woman on, she wasn't 12. She looked like she was a little older than that was throwing close to 500 feet on Reddit. I think what you're going to see here is in the next 5 to 6 years, I think you're going to see an explosion of FPO distance, which is going to be a lot of fun to watch and keep a lot of these other women that right now are very consistent. They've got 300 to 350 dialed in. It's going to keep them on their toes, and I'm excited to watch the FPO field expand over the next few years.
Yeah, and only because I'm not familiar. Was it possibly Genevieve Davis from Wisconsin that you saw throwing some big shots? I don't know, and I don't want to discredit whomever it was if it wasn't her, but she just comes to mind. I know she's continuing to set and reset distance records left and right from the FPO or from FA divisions and whatnot, and she's like 11 or 12. Last year, she's now sponsored by Grip, and she's on the Innova team, and she's an FJ10 world champion, broke 2 world distance records last year, throwing 314 feet. And that was last year. And then I just think she has a home course literally at her home, in her backyard. And I know, working on distance in her all around game. So, and she's right here out of Wisconsin, so to speak. So
yeah, I'm fairly certain.
Big shout out to her.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain it is the young lady you're talking about, MJ, and she's a 2-time major winner and world champion, Innova Disc, throw pink. Her Instagram is at MJ_disc golf. So,
I think we're talking about different women,
Oh,
which is
got it.
awesome. That,
Oh, no, yeah,
that
you're right.
we have this confusion.
This is MJ
Yeah.
Gager, Gager, Jager. I'm sorry if I pronounced it
Exactly.
out. But yeah, that's
Isn't that-
awesome. Good. I'm glad I got confused at that. I'm glad there's two young women who are throwing, and it looks like she's got some Instagram posts out there about her putting, which looks really good as well. Yeah, it looks like she's like knocking down these 25-foot putts in the hallway of her house. Just super smooth and straight. Amazing. I'm really excited for our FPO field in the next couple of years. It's inspiring. It really is.
Yeah. So awesome. Congrats to our NADGT champions. I think rightfully so. There's a little bit of confusion about like being the champion and then having the finale, or where and when and what some of that means. And I'll put myself right in that bucket. I don't think I fully understand or comprehend. I'll have to.
Well, I do know
read up or get up to speed.
The winners got the tour card for this event.
Okay.
And as we said, $4,000 and presented by who is the Poison Ivy company? Zenful?
Zenful.
Thank you. Zanful provided the sponsorship of that particular award for the winners of our field. So,
oh, very cool.
Getting
awesome.
that PDGA or DGPT tour card. We'll move a little further north in Florida, and we're going to go to the 19th Open at Tallahassee, sponsored by Visit Tallahassee, an event that Terry has been to in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Terry, there was a tie for first place. Nathan Quinn and Ezra Robinson. Do you know who won?
They both did.
You're right. Third round was canceled due to tornadoes. Normally, when you see that someone at the top with the same score, there's a number 2 next to their name. But we got a double winner, Nathan Queen and Ezra Robinson. So congratulations. A slightly shortened event, but winner, chicken dinner. It doesn't matter. Third place, Braden Sides. Fourth place, Albert Tom. And a tie for fifth place between Joseph Anderson, Joey Buckets, and Robert Burridge. So we're seeing some of these players that are really getting warmed up for the season. And I put out today, I sent out the Skip Ace first newsletter of the year, and I put at the very bottom, Joey Buckets, I think, is going to be that name to look out for this year. The one that like almost nobody seems to know. And it's hard to be an underdog at 1031, but he's just one of those names that like you don't hear him talked about a lot. But he could be this year's Parker Welk. The guy who you're like, wait, he won? He won an event? And it's not going to surprise me at all.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, Joey Buckets was on commentary with me for, I believe, that Tallahassee event last year. Did a phenomenal job with it. He's a very well-rounded player. I've seen him, and now he's been on my coverage of my channel on a few different events, including Throwdown the Mountain. So you're right that he might not, and he has had some time on DGN as well. So he has been on some other coverage. You're right. He's not necessarily a household name, but soon enough, one that you are going to clearly hear more and more often, and is establishing himself and is having a good time while he's doing it. And I think there's something to be said about that. Just kind of the approach to the game, the way in which you carry yourself on the course, the interactions, the crew of friends that he hangs out with. A lot of really good kids, which I feel comfortable using that word for some.
We're so old, Terry. We're so old.
I know. I know.
You hang out with a good group of kids. You're not out causing trouble.
Yeah, these guys that are traveling around the country, chasing their dream of being professional disc golfers and succeeding. It's absolutely awesome to see. So, yeah, nothing but shout out to him, and of course your co-champions. This is where it's funny how the first thing that my mind goes to when I see co-champions like that is, first of all, some difficult, probably maybe some unfavorable for some decisions that got made, some difficult decisions for the TDs and the staff and the crew that nobody loves to make. Nobody wants a shortened event. All of that stuff. The first thing that my mind goes to is, oh man, what a pain in the ass for the next 20 years. You have to like list 2 people as the previous champion. And I just think about,
I think it's worse if
promotional
you
items
have, like,
and
if you have like one of those trophies that doesn't travel, like we'll say like the bear from the,
Yeah,
for the
exactly.
preserve. Like now you got to put 2 names on it as opposed to just one name.
it's just
Man,
it's just one of those bizarre circumstances where listing previous champions then kind of feels weird, and then it adds confusion. It's all like semantics, and it's not that big of a deal, but it does feel very weird at the same time. So, and that's the TD in me speaking exclusively. Like I feel that pain of kind of that weird situation moving forward. But anyway, it is what it is.
I mean, it happened at
congrats to them both.
Yeah. It happened at Ledgestone a few years ago. So
yeah, Vinny and Ricky, and one of the first big times we really saw it happen, though.
Mm-hmm.
It was it Paige and Hannah, or was it Katrina and Hannah Leatherman? It was Hannah Leatherman and I want to say it was Katrina, because I think Paige like bogeyed her last hole, and so maybe it was Katrina that was out in front. But would Paige have played it differently, knowing it was her last hole in Emporia that year? Like that's the situation that jumps out at me as one of the first really big events where we did officially end in a tie due to weather. So. All right.
And we'll talk about
awesome.
FPO. We'll go over to FPO.
Yep.
In first place was Stacy Kiefer, who won in a playoff. They actually got to playoff.
Okay.
They got to play all 3 rounds. She tied with Sarah Hokum, but ended up beating her in the playoffs. So Stacy Kiefer, who's 938 rated, takes home $1,044. I think there's a good rule. Anytime you can make more than what your rating is, it's a good day.
Okay, that's fair.
Sarah Hokum at 955 takes home $731. So she didn't have a good day. She took home less than her rating. Holly Finley taking third place at $452, tied with Morgan Linz, and in fifth place, Deanne Carey. Congratulations to the FPO on this particular thing.
All right, yeah, congrats. I'm sure the entire Tallahassee crew, like I said, probably struggled mightily with making some tough decisions that no one wants to make, but they're a very, very smart, well-organized club and crew, and I'm sure they did what was best overall, even if a few people ultimately didn't like it. I wholeheartedly
happens.
Trust them.
I bet you everyone. I bet you the 2 guys who tied for first, they had no problem with it.
Yeah, they. I mean,
no. If you
yes and no,
if you have, Nathan Queen hasn't won a big event in like 4 or 5 years, other than the Pro Tour finale, which wasn't sanctioned, I think, technically. I bet you he was happy to walk away.
You want to win it outright.
Everybody wants. Yeah, everybody wants to win it outright. But if you have the opportunity, take the win, man. Take the win. I bet you he walked away with a smile on his face and money in his pocket. So.
Yeah.
All right, Terry, are you ready for some business talk?
Yeah, let's well, I guess whose business? I mean, I feel like every week is business talk.
Well,
whose business?
Getting down to some business.
Samui disc golf business?
No, we already talked about some Samui disc golf business. We're going to talk about some business in the state of Kansas.
Okay.
Jeremy Rusco purchased the country club. The Emporia Country Club. There's an article on the Emporia Gazette. Shout out to the Emporia Gazette. We have a few connections there from way back when. There's an article by Ryan Brooks who talks about the sale of the Emporia Country Club is now complete. The DD founder, Jeremy Rusco. I know there's always some kickback about the Dynamic Discs Open and the course and whether people want to see us play there and whatnot. And I've said in my take that I love to see us play there because it's a different kind of golf. You may not find the course extremely exciting where you're hitting gaps, but in general, it challenges our players to a different style of golf, where you've got wide open fairways with wind that these players need to really focus in on. We don't I was going to say we don't see a lot of that, but there are on and off years where we get a lot of wind. Having Jeremy Rusko as the owner of the country club, I feel like opens up so many more doors at that establishment and options that now things that maybe we couldn't do before because of the country club, there's no holds barred there now.
So, first of all, congratulations to Jeremy. Let's start there. Second of all, man, you get turned down for a membership, and that's how you react. You just turn around and buy the place out. Like that seems a bit extreme. No, just kidding. I don't think he was turned down. I saw the headline. I've heard of this potential rumor for a few years.
Yeah, same here.
And it's not one I go running around with because I generally am not much for the rumor mill unless I really know what I'm talking about. And to see it kind of pop up while I'm over here in Thailand, I saw the headline. That's about as far as I got. And maybe I had a different reaction than most because like you, if you heard murmurs or possibilities of it, I wasn't like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. Like that wasn't my reaction at all. I was like, oh, okay, well, I heard that might happen someday or that was conceivable. With that, I didn't read any of the details, so maybe you can elaborate. Was anything discussed, or has it been discussed really by any other media outlet? I think of an Alti World or anyone else. Have any other details about plans or what that means for golf and disc golf and blah blah blah? Has any of that been laid out anywhere? Simply because I haven't seen it.
My guess is that this solidifies. Not that there was a lot of. I think again, the public perception versus the internal perception in disc golf. Two different things. I don't believe that the Pro Tour was really truly thinking about leaving Emporia. DD brings so much to the table when it comes to this event that as much as the outside world, screams and cries and complains about the Emporia courses, I think you're looking at two different worlds here. Now, Rusko is actually renaming it. It's no longer going to be called the Emporia Country Club. It's going to be called Champions Landing. So he wants it to become like a Midwest tourist and entertainment destination for a lot of different things. Golf, disc golf, pickleball, cornhole, basketball, volleyball, craft beer, arts, and music. We'll see how many of those actually come to fruition. I could see throwing some pickleball courts because I think they already have tennis courts there, I believe, over on behind. So like converting to some pickleball courts, probably no problem. We already have the disc golf, which I'm sure will be modified, the course. He'll probably bring in our good friend Eric McCabe to look at the redesign, and if you have no holds barred on what you can do, again, I'm excited to see what's going to come of it. And it says here, Champions Landing will solidify Emporia as the disc golf capital of the world and disc golf destination for decades to come. The expansion and utilization of the multi-sport complex will attract a wide variety of sporting events to the facility and to the city of Emporia, making a significant economic impact to the overall quality of Emporia. I just have to assume that it's a pretty decently long article. I don't want to read it all on the show, but if you can go to the Emporia Gazette or just do a Google News search for Jeremy Rusko, it's the first thing that pops up.
Okay, well, congratulations, Jim. We've seen a few years ago that they redid and created all the pickleball courts. A lot of our players, you'll see if you go to the Emporia Country Club, you'll see them over there playing pickleball. I don't know if those are the nicest or the some of the few. I don't know how many other pickleball courts there are in Emporia, but if you said to me, hey, we need to go play pickleball, that would be the first place I'd go, just because I know they're right there off the corner of the parking lot. So to know that they want to develop it into so much more than what they already have there is really cool. And I think about the clubhouse probably getting a facelift and some remodel of sorts. I would say after all these years, it's probably due for that. And like you said, if you want to turn it into a world-class facility, a few upgrades and a few updates. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what it looks like. I am looking forward to seeing what it looks like and how things are going to shake out there. So, and that's truly been one of the crowning moments for Junior Worlds, Pro Worlds, Masters Worlds, all the World Championships and the Dynamic Disc Open that takes place there. They have a big women's event that takes place in Emporia every single year in the latter half of the year. So, as we already know, Emporia knows disc golf, Dynamic Disc, all of this ties together in such what should be obvious way if you know anything about disc golf. So, congratulations to him, and looking forward to seeing where this goes and what comes of it.
Yeah, same here. All right, our next topic of business talk. The big announcement this past week that we saw was the Disc Golf Pro Tour and UDisc separating for the 2024 season. So what I have to say is, UDisc, I'm pulling up a chair for you. Welcome to the club, buddies. We've all been there with the Pro Tour at some point. It is basically the DGPT is teaming up. And it's hard to say teaming up because they already have an established relationship. In fact, I believe the PDGA is even some sort of investor in the Disc Golf Pro Tour. That the Disc Golf Pro Tour is going to be moving their stats collection away from UDisc and over to the PDGA. Now, for those of you that probably play tournaments, which is most of us that more than likely listen to this podcast, you've used the the PDGA Live event thing, and you'll understand, that it does not compare currently to what the UDisc stats keeping is. And I don't think you're going to see that compare this year. But the Pro Tour I believe, will get a unique experience where it will more or less mimic the stat collection of what UDisc had and more, is my understanding. Clearly, some of us, we have some insider info, so it's hard to separate, because Terry and I have known about this for months, as far as that this was coming. And in fact, this has been talked about. This was talked about last year, and the PDGA and the DGPT and UDisc ended up coming to an agreement, and there was all sorts of behind the scenes stuff. But this year, the DGPT finally pulled the trigger and said, we're going to take the stats and the scorekeeping and just keep it all under the PDGA umbrella. And it hurts me a little bit in that we love the guys at UDisc. Josh and Matt, we've told the story before. Their very first Pro Tour event, me sitting down, cutting the show, right next to Josh, watching him scramble as his servers are almost practically burning to the ground because of the traffic it was getting that they weren't expecting. And granted, this is all virtual, but him shutting down and spinning up servers and just the cluster it was of them trying to keep the stats. They didn't expect the number of views and the site and what they have done and what they have accomplished over the last 8, 9, 10 years almost with just take the actual scorekeeping for all your casuals aside. But what they've done for the Pro Tour has been amazing. And a lot of that will now continue with the DGPT. Terry, break down for me how you feel or what you've been thinking about since you heard this news become public, or even what you've thought about the last couple weeks or months that we've known about this.
Well, I think so much of it is there's a traditionalist in me that, as you just described, day one, when Steve Dodge created the Pro Tour, he had a couple of key elements that were, absolute must. Live scoring, an enhanced live scoring mechanism or system, and live broadcasting. And then the fact that the scoring obviously then integrated into the broadcasting, tied everything together. Those were staples. And those are things that to this day, hundreds of thousands of people 100% take for granted because they were established all of those years ago. And I've said it probably now 200 times. UDisc has revolutionized the game in what they've done for our live scorekeeping, and then even their mapping, and the real reason why UDisc started, or the main reason why UDisc started in the first place, was so that people could find their way to a course and then have a good course review and have, know the directions, find out where the courses are, and all those things. Those are all the reasons UDisc started. And then to have UDisc step in and become the live scoring mechanism for the Pro Tour from day one, I just can't say enough. And Matt and Josh, like you said, the starters, the founders, great people that have worked more hours than you and I could ever possibly imagine, doing very difficult. I mean, they're like just shy of performing brain surgery, I feel like, every day when they're doing what they're doing. And it's just incredible, though, to see what they've built into. And then I think of now flipping that all on its head, a little bit of the funny responses and just the polar responses that you get. 1 minute you have people, and I get it, this is the internet, I'll spare you my internet voice, but one moment you have people barking and yelling and screaming and throwing a fit about the price of UDisc, and then the next minute you have them saying, but they're so important, how are you not teamed up, and so got shafted, and so is screwing, so, like, that's all. It's really hard for me to read that. That's nothing new. It's really hard for me to read all of the perceptions that get thrown out there online in terms of things people really have no clue what they're talking about. And I again, it's the internet, I understand, but even just these responses, because of, UDisc has gone through a couple different price changes and mechanisms. 1 minute they're directly tied with the PDGA. I don't want to say 1 minute and 1 minute they're not, but for a year or whatever, the subscription is tied with the PDGA. Then there's a little change in the plan of how this happens versus how that happens, and then what's offered. And then people are barking in favor, and then they're barking in opposition. And I feel like this is another one of those situations. And there's a lot of valuable people out there doing really, really important stuff. And I'll just say, to like 99.9% of the planet, you don't know what you're talking about when you're going out and lobbing out these assumptions. Oh, well, so, that's just it, is a lot of people make this assumption about how someone screwed someone else. And there may be a shred of truth to that, or there may not be zero truth to that, or this is exactly synonymous with player sponsorships for me. You see somebody go away from a team, and then the internet just pounds either on the player or on usually the sponsor about how bad or terrible or horrible that sponsor is, when maybe it had nothing to do with the sponsor, and the player just had completely different things in mind. But it's just not fair, because it's the court of public opinion. I get it. And there's just a lot of barking and whining and crying.
And one of the things
being on an insider is like it's not a vice, but it's, I don't know. There's a catch-22 about being an insider and knowing. And I know like, this probably sounds super cocky. I'm not trying to sound cocky like I know everything, because I don't. I clearly don't know every single detail of any of the negotiations. But I'd like to say I know a little bit more than average Joe, who is reading nothing but headlines. And it's really frustrating to see so much vitriol thrown around.
I've seen a lot of different posts on Twitter, Reddit, Facebook about how, like, oh man, now that they got Statmando, that's why they did all of this. And all I keep thinking is, no. Like I said, there was serious talks about this last year before the Statmando. This was going to happen whether the PDGA acquired Statmando or not. Now, does it make it a little easier? Of course, those Statmando guys are great. They're good friends of ours as well. Like, but having the Statmando guys will help out, maybe manipulate and add to the current stats that we have. But this was going to happen whether I feel like this year, whether PDGA acquired Statmando or not. This could have been an impetus of them saying, "Hey, we know this is coming. Let's work with Statmando and bring them under our wing and get this all together." But ultimately, I don't believe the Statmando acquisition had much to do with this decision particularly, and it really makes me laugh at a lot of comments when literally within like a month you hear people praise the Pro Tour that they're dumping Vimeo. Oh my God, I can't believe finally the Pro Tour needs to deal with this. They need to do what they're doing. Look at this. We're finally getting rid of Vimeo, which has been with the Pro Tour for a very long time. They were a vendor as well. We're finally getting rid of Vimeo, and the Pro Tour, bless the Pro Tour. A month later, when the UDisc Disc Golf Pro Tour contract is no longer in place, I see the same people out there screaming, this is the biggest incompetent Pro Tour you can imagine. This is going to flop on its face. I can't believe they're dumping these guys. Like, you either trust in the Pro Tour or you don't. And I get it. There are some people who do and some people who don't. Some people hate the Pro Tour. Some people love the Pro Tour. But I will say that talking to a few of the guys that have access to what is coming, I feel very confident that what we will see for scoring, what the public will see, is going to be as good as UDisc, is what I've heard, if not even better. And it hurts me to say that, because I know that the UDisc guys put a ton of effort in, so I don't want to diminish the work that they've put in. But the UDisc guys they've
also helped create a path though, and they've also they've done a lot of the groundwork and legwork, and clearly not like other the PDGA and everyone else is just going out and being like, oh hey, we're just gonna grab all your code and copy it. But clearly there is something about not being first to market that will have your advantage, because you can learn from what you just did really well and where they excel, and you can also see where maybe they didn't hit their mark that they wanted to, or hit a mark, and where they may not be as focused. There's something to be said about coming in after somebody's blazed a trail, because just that, the trail's been blazed, so now you have an easier path to walk. There's no doubt about that.
I'm sure that the PDGA, whatever the PDGA has to input the stats, will be similar to what UDisc has done. Like, that's my guess. Unless the PDGA has come up with a new concept on how to collect the stats that is just revolutionary, I personally can't wait to see it. Now, one of my concerns was the really awesome thing about UDisc. Now, UDisc, I'm setting aside all of the consumer stuff that they do, because they do so much phenomenal stuff there. I'm really focused on what UDisc DGPT stuff. And UDisc and DGPT tied together based on the graphics that were provided on the broadcast. UDisc, they didn't design the graphics, because the Pro Tour designed the graphics, handed the graphics off to UDisc, and UDisc provided a web portal that the Pro Tour can grab those graphics from. But the PDGA, my understanding is, mimicked that. It's going to look almost identical, because the graphics, I don't believe, are changing this year. But what I see is, for UDisc, it was really nice going to just udisclive.com, and there was your most current event. And I was worried that it was like, all right, well, am I going to have to go to PDGA Live, click into their live thing, look for the event, click on the event, look at all the different divisions, which is probably just MPO and FPO, to be honest. Click on MPO when MPO is going on, which I'm thinking okay, it sucks that I'm going to have to go into 4 or 5 different clicks, where with UDisc it was 2, maybe even 1. UDisc Live, and then I had to pick MPO or FPO. My understanding is that the Pro Tour is going to be the home of the live scoring, the Pro Tour site, not PDGA. Now, it will be on PDGA Live, so let's not, say anything crazy like that. But if you want this granular scoring, the ins and outs, the PDGA actually, I believe, built a slider, because with UDisc, when someone made a C1 or C2 putt, it was a distance. Like, hey, I want, 10 to 12 feet, 13 to 20, whatever, and then 26, or whatever the numbers were. 11, whatever. The PDGA is actually doing like a slider to give you almost an exact distance. So rather than
which may or may not be that much better. And I only say that because I only say that briefly is because I get it. Of course, you're giving somebody an opportunity to get down to the actual foot. So rather than 11 to 22 feet, you can put in 16 feet. I understand that ultimately is better. We're still, no one's going to know if it's 13 or 15 though.
No,
right?
You're right.
But I hear you. Go on. Go on.
You're 100% right in that like you won't get down. This isn't like laser precision. But one of the things that I was talking to someone in the control room about is, hey, it's really difficult when I'm looking at UDisc and I see a 20 to 27 foot putt or whatever that number is, and I look at it and I'm like, oh, let's take a look at it, and it's really like a 20 foot tap in as opposed to like a 28 foot good putt. Having this will be a little bit more accurate. So we're narrowing in the view, which will be nice. It'll be better statistics or more slightly more accurate statistics. But my understanding is that there will be a website at the DGPT that will host the live scoring that will get all of the data from the PDGA and be able to show all that stuff. My guess is that on the PDGA, you're just going to get your normal PDGA live. What we see now with your scores, probably not the whole granular. And my source tells me that he looked at what is going to happen and it looks phenomenal. He said it, like I said, it looks maybe even better than UDisc. Now, again, art is subjective. Someone may look at a website and be like, I like this better than this if it gives all the same data. I don't know the resources that UDisc threw at the DGPT stuff, because clearly they have two different businesses. They've got their consumer side and they've got their Pro Tour side. But to have the PDGA really focused on this and the design of this and working with the Pro Tour very closely, I know that the Pro Tour is very excited about what they have, and I'm excited for them. And this isn't just Pro Tour, you rah rah type of stuff. This is someone who tells me their honest opinion about what they think. If it stunk, they would tell me, and then I wouldn't say anything online. Yeah. But it's someone who's really excited about the way it looks. So I'm excited that we're going to see something a little different from what UDisc had. I will, and again, just like I'm going to say with the live broadcast, this first event, I'm holding my breath because it's going to be a lot of new things. And I know that I talked to some of the guys in the control room a couple days ago. They're running a bunch of simulations this upcoming week to kind of test the live broadcast and see how all that stuff goes. But you don't know until you're in the trenches what's going to happen and what's going to go wrong. So I would say have just a little, maybe one event leeway with the Pro Tour in their new scenario. They're very excited, and I think they're very confident in what they're going to do. But I've been behind the scenes when everything just goes south, and I don't predict that to happen. But I'm also not putting it out like it can't happen. That's for sure.
Well, I wish everybody the best of luck. I feel like I have repeated this a million times throughout the last 10 years of our podcast. Simmer down, take a deep breath. Let's all just relax and let things unfold. There's a lot of immediate knee-jerk reactions of people just losing their minds for all sorts of different reasons.
And I get it. Like,
simmer down.
I get it. And we've got Josh Lichty on the board from UDisc, one of the founders of UDisc. And he says that we used to have the slider for 2016, but the volunteers didn't like it, and it was a little confusing for them. Totally get it. And I think that there's going to be a learning curve. And I'm not sure if we're going to have volunteer collected stats or if the players are going to be expected to do these stats in the quote unquote PDGA live app. I'm not exact that part. I'm not sure how it's going to flow yet. I will say I bet you a lot of pros are going to be pulling in caddies if they didn't already have them. And I get a lot of people's nervousness about this, because if there's one thing that's been really, really consistent on the Pro Tour, it's UDisc. Like, no matter what has happened, UDisc has been really solid. I can probably count the number of times on one or two hands where the UDisc website went down. Honestly, where it's like suddenly it's like, oh crap, they got overloaded. Whether it was just suddenly it's a monster playoff and the UDisc started going, or players or the course had crappy cell signal, so scores weren't updating like they should. And a lot of that stuff isn't on UDisc, but of course they're going to get blamed for it, just like anything else. You know, we can always place blame wherever. It's definitely going to be interesting. And on the flip side for UDisc, I'm really excited that they're going to be able to focus now solely on the consumer side. What can these extra resources that no longer have to go to the Pro Tour can now be focused on what is probably, no, I'm not even say probably, what is their core business and moneymaker in scoring for casual rounds and all these other things that they do in the UDisc, the mapping and the distance and the disc selection, all this other stuff. What can they now focus on to really improve that business and make it happen? And as you said, this summer they announced an increase in their price to $30 a year, which, FYI, still a fucking steal. No matter what you think, it is a steal. That was announced well before they knew what was happening with the Pro Tour. So this has nothing to do with that. The Pro Tour business for them, it was, I don't even know if it was a moneymaker for them based on what they were doing for the Pro Tour, collecting volunteers, all the server costs, the live scoring, the traffic, the ads, all this other stuff. So in general, you know, shout out to both the Pro Tour and to UDisc, because we know those guys are going to put in, all of them on both sides are going to put in the 100% effort and make two phenomenal good products.
Yeah, and Josh is, like you said, is on the board. He says it was a different era, referring to having to use that slider as a different era. We had to run the fairway hundreds of times telling people about what Circle 2 was. Good to try it again. So that's exactly it. Like it was, you know, some of these terms and stats that have become synonymous with live scorekeeping and live disc golf and just disc golf vernacular in general. The fact that I, you know, can be in another country and somebody's talking about their C2 stats, like rewind 10 years ago, and that conversation literally didn't exist. And now you have somebody who's been playing 6 months is talking about their C2 stats. It's crazy. So, and he also goes on to say, we're happy to focus on that and not have to worry every weekend the first time in nearly a decade, meaning that, like I said, the consumer side and all the other stuff they're working on.
That is something that hits home very hard with me, being that this year I think I'm only doing like 2 or 3 broadcasts. Not having to think about, trust me, Josh, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. Not having to realize like, oh crap, here comes, and I love doing the switching, but there is something about like, oh, all right, another Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We have to have somebody on the team to monitor or be in front of a computer in case things break down or a player has a dispute about whether it was inside circle or outside circle. Josh, you're going to love it. I guarantee it. Go on vacation some weekend and just ignore the tour one weekend. It'll be well worth your time. So that one hits very close to home with me.
Awesome. Well, best of luck to, like you said, to everyone, all parties involved. I know there was some probably long, difficult conversations when it was all said and done, but it's going to be the start of something different, something new, and we'll see where it goes. And we wish the best for everyone.
Yeah, upstairs I've got a really awesome, even though it's a hair too small, UDisc hat that I love. It's just a hair too small. I can only wear it for like a half hour before I kind of get a headache. So it's a short-lived hat because it's just a little too tight on me. But I love it. I love the design. A little bit more. A little bit more. Yeah, and you have a much bigger head than I do. There's no way I'd fit your giant melon. A little bit. One last business talk. Business. Skip Ace has officially opened their. I'm going to talk in the third person like I don't know who it is because it's me. has opened their site for managers to create and update leagues. If you're interested in forming a fantasy disc golf league, by all means, please go to skipbase.com and go to the login, or you can go right to app.skipbase.com. We've got leagues, almost any type of league you want, whether it's Survivor, whether it is a weekly pick'em, kind of like a draft or a fan duel or something like that, or a yearly draft league where you and a bunch of guys get together, go into a room and draft players. We've got 2 different slates of events this year. Thank goodness we got rid of the Silver Series. Those were nothing but a pain in my ass, because half the time at the end of the season, you'd have players that just would sign up for all these Silver Series and not show up. So we had to make decisions on the fly last year about, do we include this event or don't we? Because, there were 5 pros that, were going to play, but now they were down to 1. We just eliminated all the Silver Series, and we've got 2 slates. You've got a North American, all the DGPT and majors, and you've got what I call the full tour, which is the DGPT majors, including the European Elite Series events and majors. So if you want to be a tough guy and play the full tour, and then you get to deal with all the players that travel, which I think there's a lot of them this year, so I don't think it's too big of a haul. You go with the full tour. If you want to just stick with the people that the North American events, pick the North American tour slate, and you don't have to worry about the European swing and what players will or won't be playing. I'm excited. We have live scoring this season, so for the leagues that are out there, custom leagues that do draft, it's going to be a draft and I believe pick'em. No, not pick'em. Just the draft leagues have live scoring, so you'll be able to watch your team lose to the guy who auto-picked their team like Terry Miller would do, and still somehow pull out this year's Parker Welk, and you're like, no one knew who Parker Welk was. Your team auto-drafted him, and he's winning, and you're losing to that guy. You're going to be able to watch that in live time. We're working on a few other options for scoring that I was really, really hoping would be done by now, but unfortunately, due to some, I don't want to say delays, but some major technical debt, as it was called, with kind of the way the site was built for the last 10 years, that had to be completely wiped and redone. We're not quite there. We're hoping it gets done by the beginning of the season. If not, I have some ideas that I'll talk about maybe later this month if anything happens. But Skipbase is mostly free. It costs like $15 to create a league, and that's it. The commissioner pays $15. If he wants, he can collect. You can have as many people in your league as you want, and everybody else plays for free. So go out, sign up at skipbase.com. I think I looked, and I've got a couple dozen leagues that have already signed up for just today, which I'm really excited about, considering the email blast to the 25,000 people went out today. So I'm really excited. Hopefully we can get this moving, and maybe not my wife's not around here, not lose some money this year, or not lose a bunch of money. I'm going to lose some money, but not lose a bunch of money.
When you get really, really rich, you should buy an island in Thailand.
Okay.
Just I don't know, just a whole island with foot courses on it. It would be a good time.
Like do I need to get like UDisc rich, or just?
I don't know.
That's a no comment from Terry Miller.
They enrich my lives. Well, that's awesome. I know that's been a ton of work, and when it's beyond your control, because you're relying on, you have some insight and some skills, but then you're relying on programmers to kind of take your vision and your idea, and then the intricacies that go along with disc golf. Just like any other scoring for any other sport, there's always going to be these oddities. And then, dare I say, rewind to the conversation we had a little while ago about the Tallahassee event, and think about what in the world happens in the event of a tie for first, which in theory shouldn't happen, but happens once a year. All of those types of things, along with big programmer brains.
Quite literally a conversation I had with my programmer late last week. He's like, hey, I noticed, how do we know how many rounds are in an event? I'm like, well, the PDGA has, X amount of rounds, and when it's done, it says complete and this and that. He's like, well, are there ever any less rounds than what's stated? I'm like, well, yeah, for rain delays, sometimes that happens and you can get a tie. I'm like, it doesn't happen very often, but then a normal 3-round event would be a 2-round event, or a 4-round would be a 3-round.
It could be different from men versus women.
And that's just it. It's different from MPO versus FPO. It's not an easy thing to deal with. And so that's actually one of the reasons why things didn't go as quickly as planned, because normally the programming cycle goes from, like, we kind of start updating the site at the end of October when all the events end, and we go until like February. Like February 1st is usually the cutoff date. But I'm hoping we can maybe push some things out. I've got to talk to my developer about some options. I've got some plans, and I don't know if they're going to happen or not, but I'm hoping. If not, worst case scenario, we got live scoring this year. Like, that's a big hurdle that I've been looking for a long time. And I want to give a huge, monster, massive shout out to OTB Discs. OTB Discs stepped up this year. I sent an email and said, hey, I'm looking for a sponsor for our pro members. So for Skip Ace Pro, for $10 for the whole year, you can then enter into it's almost weekly. It's every time there's a DGPT or major, and as we know, those are almost every week this year. You can enter into a competition where you win a OTB gift certificate. They're just going to hand me gift certificates, and I'm going to hand them back out to you, and we're going to do that. And that's $10 for the entire year. You'll get access to these events. So huge shout out to our new UDisc, our new sponsor OTB for Skip Ace. I was just looking at the board and someone had said UDisc. Our new sponsor for OTB discs, that you're going to get a gift certificate for an option for a gift certificate for every week. And I'm really excited to work with them. And I put a big fat logo on the live scoring, which I think they're getting a killer deal for, because, whatever gift certificates they're giving me, I put a big fat logo up there. And at the end of the year, I'll look at how many impressions that page got, and I'll be like, hey, look, you got technically X amount of advertising. So, but you know what? Every time I've reached out to those guys, they have been so awesome to work with. So, and he didn't even, I think it was Danny at OTB. I messaged him, and he was just literally, I think it was 4 words. He's like, for sure, dude, we're in. I'm like, awesome.
Nice.
Like, he didn't.
Doesn't surprise me.
Me neither. He didn't ask a single question. So, if you're going to buy discs online, I recommend 2 different places. 1, Terry Miller, but 2, OTB Discs. Go there if Terry Miller doesn't have it.
Yeah, I got stuff.
I know you got stuff. Terry.
Boxes continue to ship. I was just going to say, boxes continue to ship and get fulfilled, even though I'm in Thailand. I've had a bunch of people reach out, and we're still getting them out to you guys. So I wanted to let everyone know that. Well, Johnny, congratulations on that. That's awesome. Like you said, plenty of business here to talk about this week. And we're just a few weeks away from All-Star Weekend. I know when I get back, I'll be home for just a couple days, then turning around and heading out to Bend so I can help all the shots for All-Star Weekend. And week after that, chess.com event. And wow, where did our quote-unquote off-season go?
I'd give my left leg for like 3 more weeks of off season, just for Skip Ace reasons. Yeah, like, I just want a little more time. But yeah,
don't we all? Because I would visit Vietnam and Cambodia for the next couple of weeks of tournaments if we had more time. I would be staying here in Asia. So, well, let's wrap things up. Do you have stuff for an after show? I could forego it. My last day on the island, and I got stuff to do.
Yeah, it's pretty early there for you, so it makes sense for you to kind of get out. Actually, you know what? I'll come back. I'll come back for an after show by myself. How does that sound? And
there you go. That sounds great.
We'll chat, because Ray wanted to talk a little bit about some tech stuff, I think, and we'll go off. Sure. And if it's a 10-minute after show, great. If it's a 50-minute after show, it's only 9:55. I got lots of time.
Great, everybody. Gear up, buckle up. You got Johnny D solo. With that, thank you guys for joining us. It's been incredible. You continue to hear me and hopefully hundreds of others with the accolades of accolades and or their experience, just overall positive experiences of being here on the island. Samui disc golf aside, like aside from my physical personal investment here, this was a place that I fell in love with when I first came, not having any idea that someday I would have some ownership of it in any capacity. So my heart has been here from day one, and that's all thanks to Nigel Mills and then and his family, and then also what Luke and all the people that he surrounded himself with have made possible here. So one final shout out. I'm excited to go see the growing community up in Chiang Mai as well when I get up there tomorrow. So big thanks to everybody that's tuned in, that's been part of this ride and this journey. Coverage will continue to get edited and eventually released. I'm somehow refraining from making it my top priority right now because there's only so many minutes of the year I'm in Thailand and slaving over the edits. That can wait. It can wait. That's what I'm trying to teach myself. So, Johnny, thank you. Thank you to Luke Butch for joining us in the regular show. Thank you to all the players that are out here enjoying golfing. I'm watching tourists literally get dropped off at the driveway and stepping up to this course for their first time ever. I think I've watched 4 or 6 different tourists do that since the show started, and it warms my heart. It's incredible to see, and hopefully we'll see that growth along with all the other companies and business decisions we talked about during today's show. So for Johnny V, I'm the Disc Golf Guy. That's 492. Stick around. Johnny V's got some more stuff for the after show. I'm going to go visit my buddy Luke from Australia and send him off on his way, and wish everyone else the best from here in Samui. Next week, I think I'll be in the States. I don't know where I'll be, but I'll be in the States, and I'll join you there. So 492's regular show. We'll see you guys in the after show. Johnny will be there. We'll see you in the after show when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the Smashbox TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashboxTV. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's episode 492's After Show. It's just me. Terry Miller's gone. He's in Koh Samui. I don't blame him. It's 10 o'clock here, and for that guy, it's, I don't know, probably like 10 in the morning or something dumb. He's going to go have a fun day on the island. I have no clue what time it is in Koh Samui. I just made that up, but I know it's earlier than here because it's daylight. It's more sometime in the morning. So thanks to Terry for coming. And I know we had some issues with the video for him. He was trying to use his phone at first, and it was really choppy, dropping frames. I think that just maybe his phone's Wi-Fi antenna isn't as good as his computer's. So we went to the computer, and then he couldn't get his camera to work. So we just went with the static image of Terry Miller for the regular show. But huge shout out to Luke as well for joining and talking about Koh Samui. I found a picture of both of them that is probably very flattering to both of them these days. It was probably taken 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. It is exactly 10 o'clock. What are we going to talk about tonight? I got some information from Ray, a question asking about the Apple Vision Pro. What are we doing with it? Tim Court's talking about the Grammys a little bit. Let's start with the Grammys. He says, on a scale of 1 to 11, rate Tracy Chapman's performance. It's an infinity. It was a perfect performance. And I know it sounds slightly cruel, but I wish the other guy wasn't there. Luke Combs, is that his name? I'm glad Luke Combs brought this song back into the limelight. It's a song I grew up with. And I vividly remember the video on MTV constantly. And so the couple $1 million she probably made on royalties is great. I'm very happy. So I can't blame him for being there. He helped bring this back and bring her back into the spotlight. I was fortunate enough to see Tracy Chapman live when I was younger. I did not appreciate it like I should have because she's a phenomenal artist, and my wife is a big fan. Over in the room just on the other side of the wall over here, my wife has, I think, 2 different CDs of Tracy Chapman. Yes, I said CDs. And she listens to Tracy Chapman on her Pandora station. I saw her at the Tibetan Freedom Concert in '99. I was not there to see her particularly. I was there to see Rage Against the Machine, Biz Markie, Run DMC, and the Beastie Boys. Like, basically the last 4 people at the show. There were other concerts there were other people that were there. Eddie Vedder was there, one of his an early solo act. Tracy Chapman was there. The band Live, remember Lightning Crashes? They were there. I'd have to look at some of the other bands that were there. Biz Markie ended up not showing up. So instead, we got like an extended Beastie Boys Run DMC show, which I will say I was not impressed with the Run DMC portion of the Beastie Boys Run DMC. Shocking for me, I know. But I got to see all them live. So, and like I said, I didn't take advantage of the Tracy Chapman thing nearly as much as I should. I remember going to get concessions when she was on and hearing her play and thinking like, oh, this, I like Tracy Chapman. She's good. This was in '99. And thinking like, oh, this is I like Fast Car. Obviously, everyone knows she had one other big hit at the time. I forget exactly the name of it, but it took forever to get concessions. By the time I was done, every artist got like 30 to 40 minutes. So she played, I think, literally all of like 6 songs. But I will say the performance down the Grammys, there is no scale between 1 and 11. I watched that on my phone because I didn't watch it live. And I got goosebumps because it was so good. She sounded so good. She looked so good. It's exactly what you imagine. And she sounded like she stepped up. I truly hope that she takes this opportunity. She's been kind of I don't want to say a hermit, but I've looked in the past because my wife is a fan. I've looked for like, oh, when can we see Tracy Chapman? And realizing a couple of years ago, she hadn't toured in forever. I hope this gets her out on tour. I really do. And I don't know if it's something she's interested in or whatnot, but I would 100% go see Tracy Chapman on tour. So I don't know if there's a scale that can measure the amount of pure happiness and joy that I think emanated from that stage and how I felt about that particular song. The fact that it's got this really big following now is awesome. And I know it's again, as Terry said, it's the internet. In the middle of the song, they cut to Taylor Swift, who was standing up and just singing along and really excited. And there were a lot of people that were like, oh, gosh, get her off the screen. This is Tracy's moment, blah, blah, blah. But I just think it goes to show, and I'm not a Swiftie. Sorry, Hannah Macbeth. I love you, but I don't think I can name more than 2 Taylor Swift songs. Shake It Off and Love Story. Those are the 2 I know. I know I've heard a few more, but whatever. Watching Taylor Swift be so excited for other performers always makes me happy. She seems like she's the first person to get up and just cheer for other artists, and it's great. So overall, I think Tracy Chapman put her in a bubble because I hope she has more music left in her career. But it was awesome. I can't say enough about it. It almost brought tears to my eyes. It was so great. What else do we have on the show? Yep. R.I.P. Toby Keith. R.I.P. Carl Weathers. You know, a lot of people know Carl Weathers as Happy Gilmore's coach. Chubbs. I know him as Apollo Creed. So that is we lost 2 stars this week, but it's yeah. Matt Sayre says, I was there, Johnny. Run DMC pretty much warmed up the whole time. 100% right. You nailed it exactly, because I felt like the entire time they were just like, can I get a yeah? Like there was so little performance, and it felt like just them trying to warm up the crowd for the Beastie Boys. I don't know. I was really there to see Rage Against the Machine, because at the time I'm still a big fan, but that's who I was really there for. Let's talk about Ray's question. Ray's asking about the whole Apple Vision Pro thing. What is the point of it? Do you remember Google Glasses from like 2009? Yes, I remember Google Glasses from 2009. A different experience. That was way more AR than VR. These are much more VR glasses, regardless of what Apple wants to brand it as. I will not be getting an Apple Vision Pro unless I can get Smashbox to pay for it. Terry, do you care if I drop $3,500 on an Apple Vision Pro with a company card? I'll listen for your answer. I don't hear anything. Maybe that's a yes. No, that's a no. I'm sure if he was listening, he'd say no. It looks really cool, but it looks really useless right now. I don't see a point of it quite yet. I've got a Quest 2 in the other room that I gave to my son for Christmas. No one plays with it. Nobody. I don't play with it. My kid doesn't play with it. It's probably got a total of like 3 hours worth of Beat Saber on it. And that's about it. I should use it for working out is what I should use it for, but I don't. It's just kind of a pain finding a nice open space, walking around. And I know the Apple Vision Pro is a little different. I think it's more of a stationary environment and not so much of a get up and walk around and like the Oculus is. I'm seeing all these, and most of them are probably just clout chasing YouTube videos of people like wearing their Apple gear, these giant goggles, out to lunch with another person. I saw one of a guy driving one of the cyber trucks with one on, and if you get caught wearing the Apple Vision driving a vehicle, immediately just pull that person's license. Don't ever let them take it away for 5 years. Right away, for being so stupid. Just so stupid. Just the worst. Those are the worst people in the world. If I saw someone like that, I'd get in front of them and I'd just brake check them. But that's just me. Apple's going to do what Apple's going to do. My understanding is it's a really, really cool environment until it's not. It's heavy. It puts strain on your neck. It's got some really cool, like you can project your screen into it, which I think is awesome, and manipulate it with your fingers. It's got cameras that watch where your fingers and what your fingers do, but those particular aren't tied to you. So if somebody else jumped in front of you and did it, they would control what you're seeing, which I think is kind of crazy and strange. But I don't know of another way around it. If I had to pick some sort of VR setup, it would probably, I guess it depends what I'm looking to do. If it's for games and stuff, and you want to use it right now, I'd go with one of the new Oculuses. But if I'm looking for more productivity, I'd probably go with the Apple, with the potential that it has for in the next 3 to 6 months to have all the cool stuff. And I guess if you imagine that, like, this might be really good for disc golfers. Now, hear me out. You live in the van life. So what can you put in your van? You don't need a TV in your van. But imagine being able to put on the Vision goggles. You're hanging out after a round. You sit down, you sit back, you open up the web browser to the Disc Golf Pro Tour, and you have in your Vision what appears to be like a 60-inch or maybe 70-inch TV. Now, the downside is clearly you can't share that. So it is a lonely person's tool. But I could see something like this for van lifers that don't necessarily for, husband and wife, or someone that doesn't have kids, that doesn't have a TV or room for a big TV. This kind of makes up for that. So there are scenarios where I think it's useful. I have a hard time believing it's useful for any sort of productivity or anything that anyone really needs to do yet. We'll readdress this in 6 months and see if that changes. Maybe there's a killer app that we're not sure of. I mean, when the iPhone came out, they didn't even have an app store. And it wasn't until I think the next generation that they opened up the app store and you could start doing crazy things. And to be honest, the very first viral apps that came out, you remember what they were? There were two things: flashlights and farts. Who knew? Everybody had a flashlight app, and it was the coolest thing. And everyone had a stupid fart app where you push the button, it would make different farting noises. Those were the two biggest apps, like when the App Store first opened up. Now, obviously, we've got all sorts of different apps now, and anything you can imagine. So, maybe there's going to be something very useful for the Vision Pro. I just don't see a point in it yet. Maybe when it gets cut in half in price, and then we move from there. They sold almost 200,000 of them. You figure you sell 200,000 of them at $3,500 a piece, plus accessories. Let's just say, I think it was just shy of 200,000, but let's just say 200,000 times 3,500. Yeah, they made about $700 million. Now, assume that there is, knowing Apple, they've got a good profit margin, but whatever that is, if that's 10 or 15%, maybe they made $100 million, $70 million. Ain't a bad gig if you can get it. Ray asks, do people got to develop apps particularly for the goggles? No, you can just, there is a checkbox that allows you to take regular apps and just, if you already have an app, put it into the the Apple Vision. But clearly, I think they want you to be going into and developing unique apps. The funny thing is YouTube 3D, YouTube 360 doesn't work with the Vision Pro yet. There's a lot of things that just don't work with the Vision Pro yet. So, I don't know. If I were to, I would, again, that's just me. I would wait at least 6 months to see what happens with these things. So, yeah, as Buzz Swan says, they have a very small use case right now. It's an isolating tech, and I don't know if people want that right now. Do we want something that is going to isolate us more than we already are? Let's be honest. Right now, as a culture, there's a lot of us, and I'm not going to, put myself out of this thing, that we don't go out nearly as much as we used to. Me, I go to work, I come home, spend time with my family, drive my kid to school. He gets to go to school and spend time with his friends, but when he's not, he'd rather be home on his computer with his friends. His friends live 3 blocks away. I ask him all the time, you want to go hang out with them? He's like, why? They only have one computer. What are we going to do? And that's a little sad. He's on the volleyball team, so he's doing that, and he's on the robotics team. He's really excelling at robotics, which I think is awesome. Got a little humble brag for my kid. He got picked to go on the travel team to the Midwest competitions as a freshman, which isn't, they have a very large team and they take about half of it to the travel and he got picked for that. So he's going to go to Duluth, and then there's one here in Milwaukee, and whatever. I'm excited for him. But yeah, he's a nerd like me. I can't blame him. Probably smarter than me. Ray asks me, what's the last movie I went to? Was it probably a Marvel movie? I didn't go see the Marvels. I don't know. What was before the Marvels? What was the last Marvel movie before the Marvels? I didn't see Indiana Jones, which I wanted to. It was probably that. Maybe Flash. I went to go see The Flash, which I thought was okay. I'm looking forward to the Marvels. I think it's probably a decent movie. I just didn't get a chance to get out to the theater. Once it comes on Disney Plus, I'll be all over it. So. I know I want to talk to Joe Revere about their robotics team and kind of pick his brain a little bit about like all the different things. Like he says, they have multiple teams. So I don't know if that means they build multiple robots. My kid has a really big team, but they work on one robot. And there's they've got like a scouting team where they scout other teams. They've got a communications team. They've got, he was telling me how he was building a bumper. He was CADing it out basically, or 3D, whatever 3D design program they use, and doing a bunch of that. And then they were doing assembly. They've got a robot reveal in a week. So where they get to reveal the robot to all the parents. And then in 2 weeks, they go on this big trip. So, which I will not be going. I won't be driving 6 hours to Duluth for a robotics competition. I will go to the Milwaukee one when it's here in town, but it's fun to let the kid just go. I hope he goes and gets into not too much trouble. They won't like that, but a little bit of trouble. Racist Curb Your Enthusiasm is back. I haven't watched any, to be honest. I know that it might be sacrilege for some people. I never, and maybe I am shadowing it. I was never a big fan of Seinfeld. I mean, obviously it is what it is. I think I've seen every episode practically, or at least there's not a lot of Seinfeld references that get past me, but I never made it a point in my day to like, I gotta sit down and watch Seinfeld. I gotta make sure to catch up and watch. It just wasn't my thing. And Curb Your Enthusiasm seemed obviously a little, because it was based on Larry David, a little Seinfeld-y. So I never really got into it. I think I've maybe seen a half an episode. So it's probably great, just not my thing. At some point, maybe I'll watch it when I get old and grumpy too. So, Super Bowl coming up this weekend. Would you bet against Mahomes and the Chiefs this weekend? Would I bet against them? No, I wouldn't. The 49ers have shown over the last 3 weeks that their defense isn't as good as we thought. And Andy Reid, with 2 weeks of work, I mean, he's so good, that coach. Andy Reid is so good. And Mahomes is he's such a good quarterback. He just doesn't turn the ball over. Would I bet against them? No. I don't know, man. I'm probably picking the Chiefs. I'm hoping the Chiefs win. I'm picking the Chiefs. But it's not going to shock me if San Francisco comes out and just starts throwing all over them, and the Chiefs can't keep up. And the only guy on the 49ers that I really would like to see, like, it'd make me feel good for him to get a Super Bowl ring, would be McCaffrey. I think I said that last week, Christian McCaffrey. I had him on my fantasy team for many years. I ended up getting rid of him. I got Jamar Chase instead, because McCaffrey was starting to have down years, so I let him go as my keeper, and I kept Jamar Chase, who was like a rookie at the time. And clearly, maybe that was a mistake now. Who knew? But still, I think that I think I'm pulling for the Chiefs. Tim says the 49ers should have lost both games. Yeah, probably should have. If the Packers could catch interceptions, it would have been Packers-Lions, and then you never know who's going to win. If the Lions didn't just absolutely just fold into themselves, then it would have been, the Lions. So 49ers are vulnerable. So we'll see. Tim says it hurts, but he's rooting for the 49ers, mainly for McCaffrey. Yeah, again, that guy went through some really bad years with the Panthers. And he got out and he got on a competitive team. It's good to see because he is a superstar. So, anything else we need to talk about? Is there anything else going on in disc golf for the news that we need to talk about? I'm really hoping my developers get what I'm calling the granular scoring set up. So more or less, if a person gets a birdie, you get 2 points. If they get a par, you get like 1 point. If you get a bogey, you lose points. I'm really hoping my developer can get that set up. I had some really grandiose ideas for Skip Ace this year. I had a huge list of upgrades and what that I wanted done. And we almost didn't get to any of them because we redesigned the back end of the site. So disappointed is a word I would use. I'm disappointed in the progression of the site this year. I've been always really happy this year. I know what had to be done is, it's like going in for an oil change. You're not getting anything fancy, but your car needs it. That's what my site went through this year. And as much as I was so excited for some of the potential to not have that come to fruition yet, it still could, but not yet. I'm not going to lie, it leaves a little tiny pit in my stomach. But what are you going to do, You keep rolling. You do what you can do, and then, because I can't program it anymore. I'm not a very good Laravel programmer, even with ChatGPT, helping that out. I'm not that good. The guys I hired though, are really good. Like, they do talks at like the big Laravel PHP conventions. Like, that's how good they are. They know all the big PHP guys, and I know that sounds so lame and nerdy, but there is a community out there, and they're up there. So I'm excited for what the site will become. Just not this year, maybe. So, did you desegregate the bench? Says Robert Goike. What do you mean by desegregate the bench? I don't know if I understand that question. I'm assuming you're talking Skip Ace and not like racial overtones, desegregation. I don't know. Aaron Hobbs says his Panther seasons weren't always bad. No, like his seasons were pretty good. The Panthers, mediocre. Oh, FPO and MPO limits. No, again, we didn't get to that. It is in the list. It's literally on the list as far as like how many you want this, how many you want that. Like, get it. Like, totally. It's on my. I think I've got probably 25 to 30 different things that not that I wanted to get to, but that are on my upgrade list, and that is one of them. But literally, we completely upgraded Laravel. We upgraded Vue, it's called, which I think is a front end for what we're using, and got the live scoring in with the PDGA. Updated like the little avatar, so it used to have like a little circle around it if your player was playing in the next event. I changed it so it's a green, like a neon green, hopefully to avoid any sort of color blindness. It's a neon green circle. Yeah, I don't know. So there was, again, very little updates this year. It was a lot of just going in for a checkup. So I pronounced Hobbs' name right. Good. I don't want to say it again now because I might mess it up. Is there any other news? Obviously, we talked about the Grammys. We talked about the Super Bowl coming up. I don't think there's a lot of other news going on. You? Podcasts have I been listening to? A lot of The Verge, Decoder. Looking at my podcast list right now, things that I like to listen to. I listen to the Upshot, of course, a little disc golf action. They obviously put out a good thing. Obviously, talking about InfoSec News, which is a cybersecurity one, because that's my regular day job. Yeah, that's what I've been focused on. Obviously, the Party podcast. Got to give them a shout out. They had an interview with Macy Valadiaz last week, and it was pretty good. So, as always, huge shout out to Hannah and Christine. So, oh, did I ever figure out the spinning wheel of death on work computers? No, not officially. So what I found out is when my users logged in, it just spun and spun at setting up, or the user profile is setting up. I forget exact error. And then I would watch the memory of the computer go through the roof, basically max out. And users would just freak out. So I downgraded all of my servers to 2019 from 2022. And I left one 2022 server in there. And just today, 2022 server did the same thing. It freaked out. So I don't know. So I disabled it. I didn't let users log into it. I don't know if it's just the 2022 servers that are running into some weird issue with the software that we have. And the 2019s are working fine, which I'll live with. I don't need to be on 2022. I did it because I was rebuilding some servers, and why not? But I had a third party company, which I've never done before. Never. Like, there's so very rarely has there ever been a tech problem I haven't been able to figure out on my own. And this one just stumped me. So I had a third party tech company come in, some expert, and he was going through some programs that I haven't touched in a decade and a half. Procmon and Proc Explorer and all these other things that I did look at, but I didn't get into like he did. And he couldn't figure it out either. He's like, well, we see this is happening, but we don't know why. But it doesn't seem to be happening on these. We don't know if it was an old version of an antivirus application, because we kind of updated that, but those servers had a slightly older version on it, like one version back, even though it was a newer server because it was an old system. Either way, we didn't exactly figure it out, but I think we've solved the problem. So that's nerd talk for John's work. Talk about frustrating. I hate a problem that I can't solve. I consider myself very tech savvy. I should. I'm an IT manager. But like a lot of times management is just management. I work in a big company with a small department, so I have my hands in everything. Obviously, as we know, doing the whole Pro Tour stuff, I consider myself a technologist. Like, I kind of like to know everything. And it bothered me. Bothered me a lot. I'm not going to lie. But if this fixes it, I'm just going to let it go. Got to be able to let it go. Hobbs asks, when will Terry return to Wisconsin? Gosh, not for a few weeks yet, because I think next week he'll be in Bend for the All-Star. He might be in Bend 2 full weeks. I don't know. And then he comes back. So my guess is the mid to end February is when he'll be back in Wisconsin. Ray asks, do you ever listen to Tour Life? They actually have a pretty good show. I honestly haven't. I know they're up against us now, I think, on Tuesday nights. So they're my mortal enemy now, basically. I'm going to sneak up on Yuli and just put him in a sleeper hold. Put that guy out. But I honestly don't really listen to Tour Life. I'm sure they have a great podcast. Brody's a public person. He's very good behind the mic. And I'm sure they do a great job. I'm a little bit spoiled. And the only reason I listen to the Party podcast because it's a perspective, just like Ladies of the Chains. It's a perspective that I don't have, and I don't necessarily know if I can see, because it's a female perspective, and I give them so much respect. I listen to Upshot because I think Charlie has, in general, a pretty good take on what's going on business-wise. No offense to Charlie or Josh, but their interviews I can give or take. Meh. I don't necessarily think they're doing anything special with that. Nothing that we're not doing, nothing that every other podcast isn't doing. Like, it's nice to hear things. I listened to the Paige Pierce podcast. They had the CEO from chess.com. I listened to that today. They do a good job. I'm not going to, talk shit about them or anything, but the interview isn't what I'd rather hear Charlie's take on things. And a lot of times, the stuff that they're talking about, the stuff that Charlie's talking about, he's known for weeks or months, just like us with the UDisc thing. Like I knew 2 months ago that there was a breakup coming, and we just couldn't say anything because they had to get all their eggs together, and they had to make sure everything was set before anything was leaked. So I do like to hear Charlie's take. But as far as tour life, like, I'm sure it's a fine podcast. I like both those guys. It's just that I don't think it brings anything to the table for me. I'm not necessarily looking for a fun podcast about disc golf. I'm here to consume information. So maybe I'll give it a shot at some point. Like I said, both those guys, Yuli has been a regular on our show. He's a good friend. Brody has been on the show quite a few times. I like Brody. I think he's good for the sport. I think he brings a lot of good things to the sport. And yeah, so. Ray says, Yuli's elevated his profile a ton online. Does he have someone helping him plan and execute his social media and YouTube stuff? I'd be willing to bet he does. I think he's got an editor. I don't think Yuli does the editing himself, so I think that he probably brainstorms ideas and then works with an editor. At one point, Yuli reached out to me about editing. This was years ago, probably 4, 5, 6 years ago. I couldn't dedicate time to it because he kind of was like, we talked about it. He had these ideas, and that he just needed someone to kind of put the pieces together after doing filming, and it was kind of hinted at whether or not I'd be interested. And I just, at the time, the Pro Tour it took up a lot of my time, and there was no way I could spend additional time away from my family that I was already neglecting for something like that. So I mean, yeah, Yuli does a really good job, and I'm very proud of what he's accomplished or doing. So Tim says he saw Christine tonight at a DDG meeting. I don't know what the DDG is. Like your local Ohio disc golf meeting? Oh. Ray, you're right. Terry and I have talked about it for years. That we need an intern to make clips and thumbnails and all this other stuff. We don't have the benefit of a shop where we can also earn money, because the podcasts, I'll tell you what, theirs and ours and almost any podcast, they're not really, if you think about the amount of effort that goes in versus like the sponsorship and stuff, none of them are making money. It's all it's a sale. He's selling foundation. If you value your time at what you should be making per hour, odds are you're not making money, especially when they have 2 or 3 guys there. But I would love an intern that's able to take clips from our shows and put it up on social media, make better thumbnails than what Terry and I create. Maybe we need to make like some of those surprised faces, like, I can't believe he said this, something dumb like that. It's not our thing, but it would be cool. So originally I had talked to Terry years ago about having Gary do that, Gary to the O, but Gary has well exceeded and excelled at what he's doing with the Pro Tour. As you know, he was hired on for the Pro Tour. He is no longer even working in the control room. He is now like their director of engineering. So he has more or less taken everything that I did and taken it under his wing. And I'm so proud of him. He just understands the technology very well. I don't want to say quite as well as me, but maybe. I don't know. I don't know some of the stuff he's working with these days. So maybe he is. Maybe he's surpassed me at this point. With the engineering, with the video engineering, not so much the computer stuff. I'll still run circles around that boy. So, but with a lot of the engineering stuff. So I'm really proud of Gary. Brixton, welcome to the show. Looking forward to, I've got all my cards over there. so many sealed boxes. They're just sitting there, just collecting, hopefully, value. I think there's even a box, might be a box upstairs. I've got a box upstairs, and I don't know why, but it's sitting next to my dryer, still in the sealed envelope, whatever box is in. It's a big UPS box or something, FedEx or something. I don't know. I walk past it every day. I should bring it down here. I should look at what's in it, and I should put it on my shelf. I keep walking past it. And I'm not lying when I say it's been there for 2 months. Why do we do that? Is that a guy thing? Like I look at it and I think, oh yeah, I should bring that downstairs at some point. But I never remember when I'm walking down here. In fact, I put some paperwork, my PDGA renewal, on the bench right next door downstairs. What I do tonight? Walked right past it. Didn't even think about it until this exact minute. Maybe it's just a me thing. But you've been seeing golden era boxes go for $350 a pop. Oh wow, yeah, I think I've got 2 of them over there. I see one right there. There might be one behind it. Can't tell from where I'm at. $350 a pop, huh? Well, I'll hold on to it. I'm not in any hurry to sell it. Ray says, I wonder how the Brixton cards have sold overall now. I think pretty well. I know this is a collecting thing. I know Terry kind of expressed frustration. I don't have the same frustration exactly, but it is harder to collect when you know you can't collect a full set, or it's so difficult or so expensive. But it's cool when you pull one of those really, really rare cards. But yeah, I buy the base set every year. Whatever the base set is of the Disc Golf Pro Tour, I buy like 2 of them every year. 2 or 3 of them, and I just leave them in the box and I put them away. And I'll usually buy a few packs and then open them just for the fun experience of opening packs. I think that's really what it is. I'm no longer, unlike like the first 2 years, I'm no longer trying to collect every card. I think it's fruitless for me to try to do that. So, but I think Brixton's doing all right. You know, good for them. Hopefully they're, you know, someone's got a full-time job doing that, I hope, doing Brixton stuff. Yeah, Ray says a completionist collector isn't going to be happy with the Brixton approach. Yeah, and that's part of me, and that's totally Terry. I like what I love what they're doing. I think Brixton has brought a professionality to the disc golf card market above and beyond what I thought was already really nice cards for those early 2015, 2016 sets, of which I have 2 or 3. So, yeah, I do. Other than that, I've been working in my garage. Honestly, I spent the whole weekend in there. It felt really good. It was a little chilly, but it felt good. I built a giant wood cart. So I've got a bunch of offcuts, plywood, 2x4s, just a real little bit of hardwood that I built a big cart that I can store it all in, because it was either stacked up in the corner or some of it was on some like French cleats that I had, like, that it was just stacked. And so now I have it in a cart, and I realize I'm out of space. I filled up my cart pretty quickly, so I need to build something out of some plywood in order to free up some space. So that might be my project, maybe this or next weekend. I want to build like a little cabinet for my garage and hang it up there so I can just put more crap into it. So that's what I want to do, right? Put crap into it. I eventually want to build some cabinets for our laundry room, but I've never built cabinets before. It doesn't look hard. I'm sure it's harder than I expect it's going to be. But it's just some uppers. Shouldn't be too bad. I've got a sprayer that I might use to spray them. I might have to go get a different sprayer if I just want to paint them. Or there's a hardwood place over probably about 5 or 6 miles away that has like this really cool, unique veneered hardwood that we might look at for the laundry room. Just a bunch of uppers. That's it. 5 of them, I think I need. I need to build 5 uppers, probably some sort of slab front, not a shaker style, which is the kind with a little rim around it. Although shaker style, I don't mind them. I don't think my wife wants it. We'll see. That's what I've been doing. Spending time in my garage, trying to organize it, take back the garage because it had become a little bit chaotic, where I was having to move stuff just to get my car in, which I don't want in the winter, even though our winter has been kind of yucky. So maybe I'll post some pictures on the Discord of my garage. And I got my son in there to help me build some tool holders, some French cleat tool holders for like my jigsaw and my, not my table saw, my circular saw. It's fun. It's fun to get my kid in there. He likes building stuff and designing stuff, which is good. Buzz says, gets harder as you try to make something the wife likes, I'd imagine. Yeah, I don't know. Her and I have different, like, go back and forth. She's very much mid-century modern. She really likes finding like classic things that are maybe just a little, and usually they're a little beat up. We had one end table restored, and then she gets great deals on them. Like, we've got this set of end tables. I forget the name of them, but I looked them up the other day, and they're like, if you want to get a nice set, it's like $2,200. And I think she bought them for a total of $250. One of them had to be redone because she goes to like these resale shops and she snags things that people don't know that are worth like good money. I don't understand it. I don't care to understand it. I'm just happy she settled with me. But and it's not like she's collecting them just to turn around and sell them. We're just going to use them because they fit into our house. So, is the housing market insane in my area? Yeah, probably. Yeah, I wish it was more insane because that would help my job. That would help my company, the company that I work for. With interest rates edging back up, I think we either as a people need to get used to 7 to 10% interest rates, which isn't historically crazy. It's crazy if you look at the last 10 to 15 years, but if you look back historically, not nuts. I think that's what we're going to have to do, but it would be nice if they started edging down so people could do refinancing because, I mean, I'm not breaking any news here when I say that, people that want to either upgrade or downgrade, you're empty nesters, you want to downgrade. Usually if you're a younger couple, you want to upgrade. If you're already in a house, you probably only have like a 3 to 5% interest rate, and you don't want to upgrade and get a 7 to 8% interest rate because you're not getting a much better deal that way. So if interest rates drop, but in general the market is hot, the things that are selling are still selling fast and they're selling high. It's just that people aren't selling because they don't want to move. So I just think we either need to wait a few years and get used to the new interest rates, or we need to lower the interest rates. I don't know. I don't know the right answer. I would love it if housing prices dropped, though. I know most people that own a house don't want the value of their house to go down, but I would be okay with that. I'm going to live here forever, probably. So if this house was worth, $100,000 or $1 million, it doesn't matter to me. And the more it's valued at, the more taxes I pay. I think housing is inflated right now, and all the values, I would love to see them drop like 15%, because we need people to be able to buy houses. We need young people to be able to buy houses. I don't know. Tim says he's at 4% and he needs to downgrade at some point. Yeah. The problem is downgrading. You'd think that you're going to, like, if you have a $400,000 house and you're going to downgrade to a $250,000 house, but you're paying more in interest for the $250,000 house, the downgrade doesn't feel as downgradable. I don't know. Ray says, do you foresee your family staying in your house after your kids are older? Yeah, Ray, I do. As I was saying, I don't plan on leaving. My wife, I think I'm going to have to literally drag her out of here, probably cold, as she says. We're 40. We're in our mid 40s right now. As many of you know, I have a daughter with special needs. I don't foresee her ever moving out. I think she's basically a 12-year-old with a 5-year-old mentality and intelligence. That's kind of where I place her. And I hope that as she gets older, that kind of catches up. I don't know if it catches up. I don't think it'll never catch up. I know that. I'm not deluding myself. Unless some miracle of science happens. But I hope that she kind of can work her way up. She's doing very good, and I say 4 or 5-year-old, but there are some aspects where she's better, some where she's worse. I don't foresee her leaving us. So I have a feeling that I will be living with my wife and my daughter for the next 20, hopefully 25, 30, 40 years. So that's just what I have come to realize and come to grips with. Some days are harder than others. We have a nice little, I don't want to say call it a suite, but my son has a bedroom with a attached bathroom down here. We thought about putting maybe a little kitchenette down here behind the curtain, actually, where maybe we can, at some point when my son moves out, move my daughter down here and work with her about, being self-reliant. But she literally still needs help getting dressed in the morning. So, you never know. And she doesn't take stairs well. Like, she can do them, but I get nervous. I make sure she holds onto that railing really tight. So we'll see. Anything can happen. I'm not going to predict the future, but we'll go. Tim says he wants to stay there at his place until the cat devours his dead body. Yeah, they will too, man. Those cats, I don't trust them, man. They're not calling the cops if you're cold. All right, everybody, it's 10:45. I'm going to wrap this up now. It's a weird after show. It was a weird after show, but I'm okay with that. I want to thank Terry for dialing in from Koh Samui with Luke. And thanks to everyone who joined on the board. I know it's not as late as it's not as late as it used to be, which is kind of nice. I think this whole 8 o'clock thing is going to work out better for everybody, especially as we get older. So for Terry and Luke, I'm Johnny V. Remember, sign up at Skip Ace, become a pro member, get eligible for those OTB gift certificates, and it just really helps the site. The more people that can sign up for pro, the more I can put into programming every year, and maybe I won't lose $10,000 to $15,000 a year on that site as I have for the last couple of years. Ooh, don't tell my wife. But it's a labor of love. So I'm Johnny V. Sign up at Skip Ace. This has been podcast episode 492's After Show. We'll see you next week when you step inside the Smashbox.